This is Whataburger Friday Night Stars, presented by Game On Sports, live from the Star in Frisco, Texas, and the Dallas Cowboys headquarters. Here's Kyle Yeomans, Zach Walchuk, Eric Chiafalo, and Heckma Harrison.
All right, welcome back into Friday Night Stars. Let's get right into the top five. Number one, Midlothian quarterback Cade Sombler, and a nice scramble here, and then a nice pass, but a big hit right at midfield. And that was Midlothian with a nice play. And then you have Flower Mound touchdown. Look at this catch right on the sidelines.
It's the only good play they've
catch.
made tonight for the Jaguars.
Right on the sideline. Then we have a couple of big sacks.
Is that my boy? Is that Oak Cliff?
Look at
That's
this.
Oak Cliff.
And then we got another one here, Prosper. They've had a dominant night, and then a big sack right there for Prosper defense. And then we go Roman Fuller, Decatur quarterback, with a nice pass right on the goal line and an easy score for Decatur.
That is money right there.
We got some nice plays so far.
Good football, boys.
All right, and again, it's Nick Laupkes here for Kyle Yeomans. We have Guy Frazier in for Zach Wolchuk. They're both, I believe, what did we say? It was jury duty.
Yes.
But of course, we have Heckma Harrison and Eric Chiafalo. Welcome into Friday Night Stars Overtime. It is Friday the 13th. It is a full moon outside, and my goodness, what is going on in the DFW area high school football?
It's wild. I mean, you said it. It's the full moon. It's Friday. It's Friday the 13th, fellas, and we are getting some weird games. Biggest games of the week. We knew Lone Star, Highland Park. What the heck is going on? Lone Star putting it on them like crazy. You got Coppell and Allen. We got word from Allen that it looks like Raylan Sharp, their quarterback, was sort of a game time decision coming into the game. Not sure what exactly ailments he's dealing with, but it was enough to keep him out of the game tonight, and that has kept that Coppell and Allen game super close. And then Flower Mound and Prosper. We saw a couple of highlights. That nice catch on the sideline there from Flower Mound's probably the only great play they've had tonight, as they are getting dogged 43-6 at home against Prosper. So it's been a wild night. I mean, the scores that we've all been looking around going, what the heck? Our prediction games, we might as well throw them out the window.
A few of them.
Except for Heckma's.
All out.
I mean, Heckma's, I have never seen. I mean, we've done probably 20 some odd shows now at this point, dating back to last year. I've never seen Heckma Harrison this happy.
What do you mean? Happy?
Happy?
I'm not happy.
You're thrilled. You're elated.
happy
It's Friday the 13th. It might as well be your birthday.
All
big
I'm
boy.
doing is just talking the facts, talking a little football here with you.
And the facts are you're happy.
Little X's and O's, right?
Yeah.
And so when you get the X's and O's right, you feel a little good about yourself. And so, hey, I was wrong about the Prosper game.
Yeah.
You know, look at Prosper Flower Mound. I mean, I don't think anybody expect for Blake Short to come in and just, man, nothing is going right.
That Prosper defense, man, holy crap.
And Prosper has, I mean, obviously not a defense that we talked a whole lot about. But then you go back over to the Allen game, 21-14. When was the last time that we've ever talked about Allen in a football game where they were just up by 7 points going into the fourth quarter?
Right.
So
Probably last time they played Coppell in 2012. Last time they lost a regular
that was a
season
long
game.
time.
Though.
Yeah, that's true. That was on the road. Yeah.
Yeah.
Unbelievable. It's been a wild night of games, no question about it. I think that Raylan Sharp injury obviously has a lot to do with what's going on with Allen and their offense. Their defense has still played pretty well, especially that run defense. But yeah, the loss of Raylan Sharp's been huge for Allen tonight.
Which, by the way, if you want to see just how happy and excited Heckma was in between our little break here, go on his Twitter and see. He did about a minute videos. We were watching a couple of games in particular.
Guys,
He was very excited about a certain result.
All I said is that it's Friday the 13th. It is a full moon. And there are a lot of things happening, and we're going to talk about them. I mean, come on, guys. We got a 2-hour show. Let's bring a little bit more excitement to the show. Also, South Oak Cliff. South Oak Cliff, that's my hood. I told you guys, look, it's right now 31-0, and this is a feel-good game for the South Oak Cliff Golden Bears.
It's a big hit they had on that top five.
Negative 23 yards for, man, wow. Wow.
Bounce back game.
They needed it big time, definitely.
The other one, the Colony and Byron Nelson.
Yep.
Didn't think Byron Nelson would have much of a shot against Walchuk's sleeper team, the Colony, with Mikey Harrington and Miles Price and all those studs. And Byron Nelson's up by 5 right now, getting late into that game. So, I mean, just game after game, surprise after surprise, and it makes sense. The holiday that is, Friday the 13th, weird things are going down.
And just a very odd feel throughout the whole DFW area. And do we want to go ahead and get into the elephant of the room here?
We may as well.
24-0 Frisco Lone Star over Highland Park. They're about to come back from halftime, but that's been the big game that Heckma here, he's been breaking it down. He's had some really good points talking about that Frisco Lone Star defense. I think eventually we should probably get a Coach Heckma video session here throughout the season. Yeah.
Well, look, it's the apparent thing is that the Lone Star defense, they have literally played lights out tonight. The play calling from their defensive coordinators have been awesome. They switched it up, but it's literally the front three, the pass rush for Lone Star has given Chandler Morris fits tonight. They've made it where he cannot do what he does, and that's run around or even step up in the pocket and make those throws comfortably as he had in the past. And so it's difficult. But the one thing about HP that I know, and everybody knows, that they're a well-coached team, and 24 points is nothing. So it
feels like something when you got 0 on the other side.
Yeah.
It feels like a little bit of something. At home, at Highlander, I mean, this is not a Highland Park team that usually, it goes into halftime. If they're down, it's never by this much. And you said it, what that Lone Star defense has been able to do to Chandler Morris in this offense, been suffocating. From the front seven, not being able to, he hasn't had any time really at all. The times that he has had time, there's no one open downfield. Chandler Morris is the kind of guy that will find it and he'll put the ball in some tight windows, and he's been hesitant because no one downfield is open. From every level of that defense, and then the spy you talked about they were going to have, and we thought it was going to be probably Jalen Ford being that spy on Chandler Morris, but he's not even playing, and we would all say that's probably their best defensive player, which makes this even more insane that this defense is dominating the way they have. 2 turnovers. Look at the stat sheet there. Only 38 yards rushing, 74 yards passing. Chandler Morris cannot run. He cannot throw. And it has been tough sledding for Chandler Morris in that offense, and all the credit in the world to Frisco Lone Star's defense. They've been incredible.
Well, and it's really been a team effort as far as the defense goes. I know probably the secondary is going to get a lot of attention just from what they've been able to do as far as making things happen, closing on the ball and stuff like that. But really the guys who have helped making that happen is the front three, like you mentioned, who have not given him a clean pocket at all tonight. And then on top of that, they've just made him run for his life and kind of beat him up a little bit. And obviously Chandler's not comfortable like he usually is throwing the ball in the passing attack for the Scotties.
Yeah.
And this could be even more. We saw a nice trick play get called back that resulted in a touchdown, and ended up they took it away. It could be 28-0 right here, just as easy as it is 24-0.
Could not believe that, and it was so perfectly executed. And we were trying to figure out where was the ball being thrown.
The cameraman, everybody was screwed up on that one.
It was a lot different than a flea flicker. But again, with this game, I know for sure that you still have 2 more quarters to go in this game, and so anything can happen, especially when you have a superstar stud quarterback like Chandler Morris. But the thing about it is the defensive scheme for Frisco Lone Star is spot on. The area that they're playing, the coverage, excellent, and they're playing responsible, and you can tell that all week in their preparation, these guys are very prepared for what the Scots have.
Well, and they've been so fluid in changing their coverages.
Right.
They've not really been stagnant. They've been mixing it up, and I think that's thrown Chandler off too. But how about them just coming out of the gates and punching Highland Park in the mouth with a big kickoff return by Marvin Mims, and then a play or two later they hit him on a bomb in the end zone, a go route.
He's been unguardable.
And it kind of seemed like that's how the whole first half went, whether it's the play that got called back that you mentioned or plays that they did capitalize on. Lone Stars really hit him with big plays, and I think that kind of shocked Highland Park. We'll see if Highland Park can kind of steady the boat a little bit. But I think this first drive of the half is huge for momentum and just really the entire second half.
So, Guy, I know you're talking about the coaching staff for this team coming into Highland Park and what a great first half they had. I know you wanted to give them a little bit of credit because we talk about Coach Allen a lot, and obviously, 3 straight state championships.
Yes.
But then you look on the other side, maybe not getting enough credit, and now is kind of their coming out party as a coaching staff.
Right. Well, and Coach Rayburn, Jeff Rayburn, the head coach at Lone Star, has really built a great program there for a couple of years there now. And I think, this was kind of maybe not as talked about as much. Point of this game was the coaching duel between obviously the legend and Coach Allen, but the young and I wouldn't even say up and coming. They've cemented their place. They've been there, but in Coach Rayburn and the great program that he has at Lone Star, this is the type of game that they've needed to kind of cement their spot at the 5A level. As a young staff a couple years ago, they went to a state championship game. I think a lot of people forget about that. I think that was in 2015 or somewhere in that area, but. This is obviously a statement first half for them.
Real quick, Flower Mound does get on the board against Prosper, 43-6 now, and that's something. Somehow, I think I just kind of picked them. I think it's beginner's luck, but that's another game where
we feel the same, Nick.
No. Don't be humble on this show, man. You got to pound your chest a little bit there, Nick. That was a good pickup.
Thank you, I appreciate that. But 43-6 into the second half now. We did see one nice play on the top 5, but I mean this Prosper team, especially defensively, has just been suffocating tonight against a very good Flower Mound offense.
Yeah, when I look at Pierce Hudgens, 10 carries for 42 yards, that's the telling story for me. They're not able to do what they do, and a lot of what they do is in the running game, but Pierce Hudgens also has 55 yards receiving. And so it's not that all is lost. It's just the fact of the matter is that Jackson Berry has had one heck of a night. 3 touchdowns, 258 yards. They're also getting it done on the ground with J.T. Lane, 14 carries, 121 yards, and 2 touchdowns as well. And so, look, Prosper, as we said, in order for them to make any headway in this district with the elephant in the room being Allen, Prosper is looking
It's a great way to do it.
Good,
great way to
now.
do it, especially when you look at the injury to Raylan Sharp, and we don't know exactly what it is. He was a game-time decision today, so it doesn't seem like it's necessarily something that would keep him out for a super long time if there was even a slight chance he was going to be able to play today. But with the injury to Sharp, and then you look at the youth of that Allen team, especially on the defensive side of the ball, this is a great time for a team like Prosper, who is clicking on all cylinders. You mentioned it, Jackson Berry getting it done through the air, 260 yards and 3 touchdowns.
Look how easy that is.
It's just incredible. And their defense, look what they're doing. They are flying around. They rally to the ball, and they get a lot of pressure on Short. I mean, Short can't do anything. And, Pierce Hudgens and Blake Short is one of the best running back and quarterback duos in the entire area, if not the entire state. And this Prosper defense is absolutely putting it on them on the road. This is as much of a statement win for a team like Prosper as I could really imagine.
Well, I got to ask y'all a question. I think this was kind of a barometer game for both teams. Do you think this says more about Prosper or more about Flower Mound than what's happened tonight?
I'd say it says more about Prosper.
Yeah.
Simply because Flower Mound is established, and they've been, from last year coming into this year, they're someone that we all are saying with the weapons that they have, and on defense, they have a few games. Prosper really have just come out, and they have taken it to Flower Mound. So I'm really shocked about this, especially when you look at the yards rushing. Rushing 165 yards on the ground to Flower Mound 16. So not a whole lot of penalties there, but again, first down differential 18 for Prosper, 8 for Flower Mound. Flower Mound isn't just they're not able to get in any type of rhythm, and so the yardage for everything that Prosper is doing, I'm really impressed with it. There's nothing that you could take away from Prosper in a game like this. J.T. Lane, again, they have a running back by committee style, but J.T. Lane is just taking it over. But Jackson Berry is really the story. He is
efficient tonight.
Yeah, very efficient. No interceptions or anything like that. I think the one turnover that they had was on the ground, but Jackson Berry has just been playing lights out.
Well, and when we talk about their offense, but like Blake Short was held to negative 26 yards of rushing, which meant that he got sacked and obviously was pressured a bunch. So Prosper's got a little bit of juice on defense, too, as you saw on that one play where they're just flying to the ball and rallying.
Yeah, that's such an unfair stat, negative 26 yards. And, they only do that in high school where they have that stat where you're negative 26. And that's, like you said, that's all that means is that he's taking a bunch of licks back there in the pocket.
Right.
Yeah, right there. You do see 13 points now up on the board for Flower Mound. Pierce Hudgens from about 5 yards out was able to squeeze it home, but still, that's right going into the fourth quarter right about now and down big time. A impressive showing from Prosper tonight, and that's out at Flower Mound, so it's pretty impressive. And then looks like Allen and Coppell are back tied at 21 right now, and that's, again, another game late into the fourth quarter, and they're all knotted up to 21.
Wait a minute. You just cannot announce that like that. All right, Nick. Come on now, because I'm telling you right now, that is big time on this show. Zach Walchuk would be going crazy right now. You do not understand. He would be in that star back there. If 21-21 into the fourth quarter, wow. I mean, what a difference a quarterback makes,
Well,
right?
we talked about that this game wasn't going to have the juice that it has in years past. Boy, was I wrong.
Yeah, right. I mean, come on. And so you say that, Drew Coniglia comes out at quarterback, and he's having to kind of, he's has 2 touchdowns, 2 interceptions already. So Allen's offense is really stalling there.
And you can tell they've really, with Drew being the guy tonight, it looks like they've tried to alleviate some of that pressure by running the ball a lot more. I mean, we've got 29 rushes just between the 2 guys who are starting at running back for Allen. And Keldon Manning has 183 yards on the ground by himself and 2 touchdowns. So it looks like he's had to take a lot of the load for the Eagles tonight.
It's just the turnovers for Allen that's really killing him. The interceptions from Carnegula and my guy, linebacker Walker Polk, who's an absolute stud on that Coppell defense, had one of them early in the game. But then the recent score they just had was a 60-yard fumble return for a touchdown.
Right.
So that's an instant 7 points right there. The Coppell defense getting it done against a shorthanded Allen offense, obviously without their starting quarterback, Raylan Sharp. But hats off to Coppell going to Allen. I don't care if they're playing their second, third, or fourth quarterback. If you can tie the ball game in the fourth quarter, you have really shown up and showed out. And this is a Coppell team that none of us really had much faith in. And shout out to Ryan Walker out there at quarterback. We talked about it coming in. Who was really going to be the guy for them? The first couple of games, it was a little back and forth between Walker and Schumann. And coming into the season, Schumann was supposed to be the guy. But Ryan Walker has really showed up tonight in a big way. And I think that's a big surprise. It's a Coppell defense that we said their pass defense was suspect coming in. Their rush defense has been great, and that's been the same tonight. I mean, they've held Coppell's rushing attack in check, but Coppell through the air has made enough plays, and when you force 4 turnovers defensively, one of which is immediately returned for a touchdown, that's gonna bode well for you.
Yeah, that's the key to the game. It doesn't matter what level you play on, if it's Pop Warner, middle school, high school, college, if you turn the ball over 4 times and you look at the disproportionate numbers for rushing for Allen, you would think that Allen would be winning this game easily, but the turnovers are what's killing them. And so, look, my question is, will the student section tear down the goalposts?
Coppell? Oh, you're dang right they will. Tear down that stadium.
I mean, what a big win. I mean, look, it's 21-21. Obviously, we're a long way away from even talking about that. But I'm just saying, it's been so long since Allen has lost at home. And what? Like I said, what a difference a quarterback makes. Their quarterback goes down. They can't find anything. I promise you, that coach from Allen is definitely going to get that fixed.
Well, and I know it's a Raylan Sharpless Allen team tonight, but I think regardless of what happens here, whether Allen wins or Coppell pulls out, I think this is kind of a statement by Coppell that they might be a little bit better than what we were thinking.
Yes, sir.
So they might be, the Cowboys might be a team to look out for as we, the season ages on. And I'm not saying they're world beaters or anything like that, but this might be a team that we are overlooking regardless of what happens tonight.
Well, I think it also shows the talent to which that Allen has, where they've had 4 turnovers, one of which was returned for a touchdown. They basically gave Coppell a free touchdown. You're with your backup quarterback. You've basically played like trash in all aspects of the game, and it's tied with 5 minutes left.
And they have 428 yards total right now, and that's still with about 5.5 minutes to go. So even with, talk about you have your backups in and then you have all these turnovers, but you're still tied to a very good team and you're outgaining them by 127 yards.
Yeah, over 300 yards on the ground for Allen. That's really, really good, especially without Raylan Sharp, who does a lot of his damage on the ground. I mean, their run game took a hit as soon as he wasn't in the lineup today. But guys like Keldon Manning and guys like Jordan Johnson are able to get the job done, and that's what they're going to have to do. They're going to have to grind out the last 5 minutes of this game and not let Carnegula screw it up. I mean, obviously they've had some fumbles, which aren't all on him, but those interceptions, I mean, you don't want to put the game in his hands right now. They've been dominating offensively from a rushing standpoint. Again, over 300 yards rushing in this game. I think right now you got to feed the beast. Keldon Manning, let him go get there. I don't care if it's just a 3-point victory. Go down, ice the last few minutes of this game with your rushing attack, just get out of there with a victory.
Well, and I was going to say this might be a good night for them to be rush heavy, in a situation like this where you can just melt this clock away and get out of this game with maybe a victory.
Well, I think if there's a game to kind of describe the whole Texas high school football scene tonight, it is that one. 21-21, 5.5 minutes to go, Allen and Coppell. That's a lot of fun, and we got a lot of other great and surprising scores throughout the DFW area. So stay with us. We'll preview those as we go later on into the evening. We'll take a quick break here, and we'll get back and see maybe if Allen does what you decide or what you think they should do, maybe try and go down, ice the clock, and get a last-second win. So stay with us. We got some exciting stuff here tonight in Texas, so stay with us here on Friday Night Stars.
Gear up for Back to Sport at Academy Sports and Outdoors.
It's game day. A day that should be spent in the living room, not the kitchen. So next game, you just worry about the score, because we've got the food covered. With hand-battered, cooked-to-order, always fresh, never, ever frozen chicken fingers, craveable cane sauce, crispy crinkle-cut fries, and jugs of freshly made tea and lemonade. Raising Cane's Chicken Fingers, one love.
Go Cowboys!
It's in all of us, and we won't hold it back. Not one little bit. Nope, we embrace it, letting it fuel our passions, pushing us deeper than we thought possible and keeping us curious. It's what sets us apart from the herd. It's how we come up with the ideas that make people say, why didn't I think of that? See, when you nurture the creativity and passion that's in all of us, you'll learn nothing is out of reach.
Get excited, Whataburger fans. Our one-of-a-kind mushroom Swiss burger is back.
And now it's an all-time favorite.
If you love mushrooms, you're gonna love this burger.
The double cheese, the mushrooms was absolutely amazing.
It's a really good balance between the mushrooms and the Swiss, and that au jus sauce on top.
The creamy au jus sauce.
It really complements the mushrooms. Everything just works perfectly together.
It's just perfect. Every bite's perfect.
It's not just a mushroom Swiss burger, it's a Whataburger mushroom Swiss burger.
Hey, I'm Jack. We started SeatGeek because we want fans to have a better, more transparent ticket buying experience. With SeatGeek, you can see the best deals and buy tickets, all with a price match guarantee. The only thing we can't guarantee is that your team will win. So use the code TICKETS20 at checkout for $20 off your first order.
Frazier knows what I'm talking about.
9:25 here from the Star in Frisco. A lot of the games starting to heat up going into the fourth quarter. We got a lot of wacky scores tonight, something that I don't think really most of us expected.
Expect the unexpected on Friday the 13th with a full moon in sight there, Nick Laupius.
Yeah, it's something I didn't really think of, and we'll take a look here. Something that happened a few moments ago. Frisco Reedy, Lake Dallas.
What
Frisco
a catch,
is up
Lake Dallas.
27-14.
Man.
How about the Falcons making this a good one here?
Yeah, credit to them. They've been fighting in there, and it was 20-0 for a while. They got a nice score, and then their second touchdown of the game was actually a blocked punt right there at the back of the end zone that they recovered for a touchdown. So Reedy's defense, up until that big play that they just gave up moments ago, the Reedy defense came out to play today, and credit to them, because it's a Reedy team that we know has lost, pretty much all of their players from last year after a great season.
I am so impressed with Coach Kitna's son. I mean, he has been throwing some darts tonight, and he's a big part of those 27 points that Reedy's put up. And so excited to see that kid. He's just a junior, so he can't do anything but get better. But awesome quarterback Reedy has.
There's 36 seconds left, and it's a 6-point game. So see if maybe Lake Dallas can recover an onside kick. That was perfect right there, right on the money.
Kobe Minor tonight, 5 attempts rushing the ball for 106 yards for a touchdown. And I think he may have had a punter kick return as well in this one.
Yeah, I think he had an Oski, and he took it to the house. Yeah. But, I mean, you couldn't tell Kobe Minor from anybody else on the field. I mean, it's not like he has anything on the standing out besides.
I was going to say, he's got the swag with the bright orange gloves and cleats.
Goodness, I mean, you could tell that kid from a mile away. But right now, looking at those passing yards, Reedy 190 yards, 111 on the ground. But obviously, Lake Dallas can't get anything going in the passing game. It's all been struggling on the ground. And then, hey, obviously, I say that about not getting anything going in the passing game. They just got a touchdown there off the pass. So game's not over, I guess, if they can get this onside kick.
Yeah, and the thing about Reedy tonight, I mean, you mentioned Kitna. He's made some really nice throws, 190 yards through the air. Hasn't been overly efficient, but of the 10 completions, I mean, he's got 90 or 190 yards. I mean, almost 20 yards per completion for him. Oh, yeah. Big plays through the air. So I'm sure Reedy wants to get back to the drawing board from an efficiency standpoint when it comes to passing the ball. But you can see Kitna, he's got the genes, and he can really let that ball fly.
Oh, absolutely.
And 20 yards per completion will really get the job done, even though it wasn't overly efficient. But again, credit to Lake Dallas fighting through it. They were down big early, and they've been fighting all three phases. Special teams gets a block punt, nice touchdown, and their guy Kobe, what's his last name? Kobe Minor, absolute stud.
Yeah, he's done it.
Looks like Reedy's going to pull it out.
Yeah, Reedy recovered the onside kick, take a knee there, so a good win for Frisco Reedy, holding off Lake Dallas. Like you said, I mean, it was 20-0 for a while, but Lake Dallas with a late surge, and Reedy special teams unit able to recover the onside kick and secure the win. So congratulations to Frisco Reedy on their win tonight.
Yeah, this is the kind of win for Reedy that none of these wins this year are going to come easy. These are nice wins for them anytime they can get it, because remember, last year they had a great season. They sort of shocked the world, but you lose your quarterback and you lose 15 to 22 starters, it's going to make it tough on you.
That'll do it.
And the expectations get raised up a little bit now. You have a really nice season like they had last year. You bring an Arizona transfer in, Kitna, who, though he's a little bit young, he showed some things, especially when he was over there in Arizona, and hasn't gotten off to the greatest start in the world this season, but he's making strides, and this is a Reedy team that they will take any win they can get right now, and they're going to have to grind them out. Lake Dallas, not the greatest team in the world, but they're not a pushover.
Well, and last year, nobody really knew about this Reedy team coming into the season. And then they obviously proved themselves over the course of the season. Now they've got a target on their back, like you said.
Yep.
The expectations rise a little bit. So now people know who you are and kind of what you do well. So this year it's going to be a little bit of a different challenge in that people know what you do, and now you've got to raise the level even more and, beat those odds.
Highland Park on their first possession of the second half, able to put it into the end zone 27-7.
About time.
At the start of the third quarter. That's a big response right there from Coach Allen's team coming out of that halftime break and able to finally get some points on the board.
You expected them to respond. You don't win that many state championships and get down and stay down. And so it's not one of those things where HP is going to, pack it away for the night and call this a loss. They're going to fight all the way to the end, because these seniors definitely don't want to lose this game. But it's the story has been Mims. Wow! I thought he caught that. I was like, whoa! Wait a minute! Yeah. Wait a minute, man! But still, these guys are playing. Lone Star has been playing lights out on defense. I'm sure with the adjustments that Coach Allen made, it was very easy for them to go down the field and score against this stout Lone Star defense. So the game isn't over. I mean, I believe it's 3 minutes left in the third quarter. So this is definitely plenty of game left.
Yeah, and we talked about it coming in, the quarterback matchup. We know about Chandler Morris and what he can do, and that Frisco Lone Star defense has really suffocated him in that passing attack and the rushing attack. And we know Chandler Morris, a dual threat guy, he beat you through the air just as much as he can with his legs, and they've done a really good job stopping him. But the question was Garrett Rangel coming into this game, and he's a young guy, sophomore. We saw it a couple of weeks ago when Highland Park took on Rockwall, and Braden Locke really stepped up in a big way that game, and we wanted to know if this Garrett guy could do it as well, and he sure has. 257 yards, 2 touchdowns, and Marvin Mims has been absolutely unguardable. Of the 257 pass yards for Frisco Lone Star, 223 of them are owned by Marvin Mims. 2 touchdowns. Just a big play guy from the start. I mean, the first possession of the game, he had a huge touchdown, and they just haven't been able to guard him, and they really haven't. I do wonder what the adjustments Randy Allen and his defensive staff are going to make. He's got plenty to make offensively, but defensively, what are you going to do to Marvin Mims? You got to double him. You absolutely have to double him because you've single covered him the entire first half, and he owned you time and time again. Marvin Mims is an absolute man beast.
Well, and Garrett's not been overly efficient tonight, throwing a 50% completion percentage up there for Lone Star, but he's averaging 35 yards a completion. So they've been a lot of bombs and big plays, and obviously Marvin's been a big piece of that. And one of my biggest question marks for this Highland Park team coming into this game and really the season was their secondary. They're a little banged up, but even with that, they've just been kind of questionable all year long.
Rockwall torched them, and we saw that.
Right.
We expected that, but still.
And so you're kind of seeing that happen again tonight. So that's kind of a question that the Scots need to shore up, especially for this game, but really just going forward the rest of the season and see if they can solve that issue because they've had no answer for Marvin.
Now, one of the things I do not discount in any level of football is the heart of a champion. You've been there, you've done that, and you have guys that have won multiple state championships. Like I said, you don't just lay down. And so for Mims, with already having 223 yards and 2 touchdowns, who else is going to carry the mantle for Lone Star? Because someone else is going to have to step up. Because Highland Park isn't going to let this one guy have 400 yards receiving.
Yeah.
It's not going to happen like that. So someone else is going to have to step up. And also, good question for you guys is, does Lone Star pull off of the gas a little bit and start thinking about, time management? We got a pretty good defense.
Get less aggressive.
Yeah, exactly, because you got to think about all the big playability that they've had from the first half. Now you got a 20-point lead. Do you continue to stretch the field?
Just staring at the clock.
Well,
please.
Here's the thing I will say is Lone Star has not really shown this game to really just beat up Highland Park on the ground. So I don't know if they want to start just melting the clock completely. But if you go back to the John Tyler game last year where Highland Park was in a similar situation, being down 20 points heading into the fourth quarter, we're getting close to that. One of the things that John Tyler did is they kept throwing the ball, and eventually they started having some turnovers with that. And it allowed Highland Park to get extra possessions out of it and get back into the game. So if you're going to continue to throw the ball, you got to be efficient and make sure you don't give Highland Park extra possessions that they wouldn't have had otherwise.
Yeah, that's such a good point because you talk about the coaching. You talk about the coaching, and sometimes when you have a coach, and not to call him an up-and-coming coach, but you know what you're up against, right. And if I get a victory here, this is a big-time victory against a program that is established, right. And you may start trying to be a little bit more conservative, whereas if you stay aggressive, you may get the victory. I mean, look, it's just one of those things where you're in the lead, but you're still kind of scared for that.
Yeah, for sure.
So another program that has won multiple state championships, Allen is up 28-21 with about a minute left, I believe.
Okay.
So Allen did get back on top. Again, maybe about a minute left in that game, so it looks like Allen will more than likely come up with the win in a very close game against a very tough Coppell team.
Well, you got teams like Prosper that's sitting out there going, well. There's a little bit of a tink in the armor right there.
Don't throw Carnegie out there against Prosper.
No, they won't.
It looks like Allen moments ago had the ball, so it looks like they might close this game out.
Yeah, with that rushing attack, they've been able to do it all game long. Keldon Manning, you got to feed the beast right here. When your backup quarterback's in the game and you've been running the ball as well as the Allen Eagles have, that's what you got to do to ice this game out. It looks like that's what they are going to do, or that's what they have done, and they escape with a victory. And credit to them, a night where everything sort of went against them from the start of the game. You lose your quarterback, and then 4 turnovers. You give up a defensive touchdown, and that is a recipe to lose games right there. But credit to them for going out there and finding a way on their home field, as they always do, to get that victory. It is a shame, though, that we're going to wait till November 1st to see Allen and Prosper play. But that game is at Prosper. The one game in the last decade that Allen has to play on the road will be at Prosper. And it's you're dang right about it. And so that's going to be a fun one. But we got a while to wait before we get to see that District 9-6A matchup.
Potential district championship game, too. I know there's a long way to go. We haven't even started district yet, but if things hold course, that could be what that is.
Prosper's up 50-20, about halfway through the fourth quarter. So Prosper getting back up on the board after Flower Mound had put up 20 straight. Prosper with a response right there, 50-20, about halfway through that fourth quarter. And that could be a very good matchup if both Allen and Prosper continue on the trajectories we see right there. Joshua Price kind of helping us out there. He's out there for tonight's game.
What a cool graphic. I love that, man.
I like that. Good stuff. I haven't seen that with us before. That's good stuff.
Yeah, that's new. That's tonight. That's nice Matt addition. Doing work.
I like it.
There you go.
But Joshua right there getting us a lot of highlights, and there's been plenty of them. If you're a Prosper fan, maybe not so much for Flower Mound. They did have the nice catch by Reed Touchstone we saw in the top 5 to start off overtime. But as you see, it's just a lot of scores there for Prosper.
Yeah, the thing about Prosper is they're not one-dimensional. Offensively, they pass the ball well with Jackson Berry, and then they also run it really well with JT Lane. You just saw, almost 300 yards passing for them tonight, almost 300 yards rushing for them tonight. That is a well-balanced offense right there that you feel like going into whatever style of game you got to play, that you feel like Prosper can do that. They bring that great defense. They took it on the road tonight and absolutely pummeled what we believe to be one of the best quarterback and running back duos in all of the area with Blake Short and Pierce Hudgens, and that defense absolutely suffocated them all game long. And then offensively, that's what you get. Chunk plays through the air, Chunk plays on the ground, and this is a Prosper team now that is ready to rock and roll. They got a while before they take on the Eagles, but if they continue to play this way, then that game on November 1st at Prosper is going to be one for the books.
Yeah, Jackson Berry, I'm just really shocked at how smooth this kid is playing and just the way he's lobbing those passes up. But also, Prosper's defense, the energy that they've had to play with tonight versus Flower Mound, they took it to them. In every aspect of the game, really 50-20 is lopsided for Flower Mound, I think we'd say, based off of the other games that they've played.
Well, it's a little bit like what happened last year. Prosper put it on them last year as well, and Flower Mound had a great season last year. There's no question about it, but it seems like Prosper really has that Jaguars number there, because last year at home they put it on them. I think it was a similar score. I think it might have been 51-21, something like that, and then now 50-20 here. Prosper clearly just the better football team. Look at that stat sheet right there.
Just doubled them up and everything.
A team with Pierce Hudgens at running back, only rushing for 24 yards on the day, and you can just tell. Look at the first down differential right there. It was a dominant performance on both sides of the ball for Prosper.
All phases.
All right, so looking at 6A, Byron Nelson had a lead on the Colony late in the fourth quarter. The Colony with a 3-point lead over Byron Nelson, out 48-45 deep into the fourth quarter. So the Colony looking to complete the comeback against Byron Nelson, who's still trying to get into the win column.
I was just surprised that Byron Nelson was even hanging in this game. And it's credit to Byron Nelson, because they're a little bit young, and I think next year is really going to be the year that we see Byron step up and maybe be able to beat a team like the Colony, because they got good players at the quarterback position with Hudson White. That dude's a pretty good player. They got a good running back who's a junior, and then Cooper Stillwell, the junior wide receiver. Those guys are all three going to be studs for them, not only this year but especially next year. But credit to them, and they did a great job. You got to score a lot of points to be able to hang with the Colony. Mikey Harrington and Miles Price and all those fellas, they do a really good job offensively, and you can see that Byron hung right in there with them. They ran the ball extremely well, and that's really what was able to keep them in the game here. But then also forcing 2 turnovers against that Colony offense is pretty impressive.
Yeah, the stat sheet boggles the mind. I mean, the Colony 606 total yards to 373 for Byron Nelson. I mean, there's obviously some punt returns, kickoff returns. Something happened in this game other than just turning the ball over twice that we're just not seeing, because if you look at what Mikey Harrington's done, 416 yards passing, 5 touchdowns. And look, Miles Price, another.
I was about to say, heck, I'll tell you what happened was Miles Price happened tonight.
What, 4 touchdowns tonight?
4 touchdowns off of 9 receptions, 165 yards off of that, and then he's also got 45 yards on the ground as well. So he's averaging, and that's off of 4 carries, so 11 yards a carry. The guy's kind of done it all, and what's been a big week for him with the commitment to Tech earlier this week as well.
And Byron Nelson's Avery Crawford had an 83-yard kickoff return for a touchdown.
That's what I'm talking about.
In the first quarter.
That's what I'm talking about. Byron Nelson has had to have done something through special teams, because if you look at what Hudson White's done, I mean, only 7 completions, 125 yards, 1 touchdown.
Mm-hmm.
You know, where did all this offensive output come from? Because they've been doubled in yards. I mean, and so it had to have been something to it. But that's the telling story. I mean, they've had some success, but not that much success. But look at the weapons and the firepower that the Colony has, and literally they seem like they can play any kind of game with you, but they're going to have to do something with that defense and special team, because they're giving up way too many points.
Yeah, and it was only a 2-point play for Byron Nelson in the second quarter, but they also had a PAT blocked and taken back 95 yards for 2 points. So, I mean, they definitely...
Crazy night. It's been a crazy night.
It really has. It really has.
I'll tell you one more name that stuck out is Christian Gonzalez for the Colony. He's got 8 receptions for 124 yards and a touchdown. Chris is actually known as being a secondary guy. He's really versatile. He can play corner, maybe a safety at the next level. He's committed to Purdue. He's one of the better corners really in the state, but especially the area. And I was unaware that he played on the offense side of the ball. He's a great athlete, so it's not too surprising, but it just shows the amount of weapons and tools that this Colony team has, and they can put up points. It's pretty obvious.
They're a sleeper team.
Yeah, yeah, of course. And when Keith Miller III, the Colorado commit, your third leading receiver on the night,
that's not too bad.
You know, you got quite the stable of receivers over there in the Colony.
Another close game into the fourth quarter. Well into the fourth quarter, Euless Trinity up 24-17 on Colleyville Heritage.
Coach Willis.
I mean, and you got to know, and I've been saying this, that Coach Willis is going to get them coached up. He's not going to just let it go down where these guys just get mollywopped for a second week in a row.
Not 2 weeks in a row.
Not 2 weeks in a row. But the biggest thing is the 255 yards rushing. You knew that Euless Trinity was going to commit everything that they
that's
have.
not a Euless Trinity stat line right there.
Right. God almighty.
How about the 4 turnovers for Heritage?
They're
still in it.
And that is the thing that you got. If you know anything about Joe Willis, he is not going to accept that at all from his team. They will hear about that. But I'm just shocked. You know, this was a game that I figured that Euless Trinity would have some success in, but I also thought that Colleyville Heritage would come back and play a lot tougher. And if you watch Colleyville, man, you know they're not the rushing team. They like to pass the ball. They play a pro-style kind of an offense. And so the fact that that offense have been as stagnant as it's been for 2 weeks in a row, 2 weeks in a row, not really able to get anything. But the one thing is that they did establish their running game in this one as well. I mean, Isaac Chabet, 18 carries, 96 yards. He's been the difference maker for him. Braxton Ash, 12 carries, 78 yards. But, man, Zachariah Moore, 26 carries, 133 yards, 2 touchdowns. I mean, they've really put it on. But A.J. Smith, quarterback from Colleyville Heritage, he's got to give them more. I mean, he's only had 5 completions, 46 yards passing with 3 INTs. And so that Euless Trinity defense is the difference maker. They are smothering, and they will get after you. But they've just basically made Colleyville one-dimensional.
Well, it's kind of crazy that Colleyville's in this game like they are when you look at what's happened as far as, what the box score tells us anyway. It's it makes me scratch my head.
Yeah, and you have those games where you go back and you look at it and you look at the yardage and you say, well, wait a minute, they should be easily being beat by 20 points. And so what that says is that with the running game, what Colleyville Heritage has been able to do is milk the clock, with time of possession, but they're just making costly turnovers at the wrong time and probably red zone turnovers when you start looking. And that's all I see when I see these stats is like you're marching down the field and you're turning the ball over and you're giving it back to the other team. And so they're having to go the whole length of the field as well.
Well, and what we talked about before the game with Trinity, they're going to want to obviously shorten up the game. That's just what they do. They're going to want to run the ball and pound it. So when you do get those chances, you got to be efficient, right? And when you're giving up the ball 4 times like that, that's just something you can't do against the Trojans.
Yeah, 5 yards passing for Euless Trinity.
Yeah.
That's their formula for victory.
And 6 attempts at it compared to their nearly 50 rushing attempts. I mean, that's just their bread and butter. That's their game.
That is what they do, and they've historically done that. But I'm really shocked. Again, that it seems to me that Colleyville has been able to stay in this game based off of the turnovers. They're shooting themselves in the foot, is what I see. And this is a game that they'll be able to look back at and say, hey, we had a legitimate chance, and it's not over with. I mean, it's still it's pretty much over. I mean, it's over. It's pretty much over.
It's a head scratcher game, though. I'm kind of curious what the whole story with this one is.
It's Friday the 13th, man. It's a full moon. It's a lot of weird stuff happening tonight, guys.
Yeah, we got a lot of weird stuff, a lot of exciting scores, a lot of games coming down to the wire. We're going to take a quick break here. We got a lot of stuff to get to, but stay with us. We got some lopsided scores, but we got some upsets and some pretty close scores, so stay with us. We got you covered all night long here on Friday Night Stars.
Hi there, this is Dak Prescott. When it comes time to shop for my tailgate favorites, I go to my stores, Albertsons and Tom Thumb, where they offer fresh organics and large assortments of local produce and sell only USDA choice meats. Get 10% off of your groceries every Dallas Cowboy game day when you wear your Cowboy jerseys. Albertsons and Tom Thumb, the winning combination and the official supermarket and pharmacy of the Dallas Cowboys.
Gear up for back to sport at Academy Sports and Outdoors.
Ashley Home Store, the #1 furniture and mattress store in America. We have all the major mattress brands at a guaranteed low price. Plus, we have furniture for every room in the house and decorator accessories to make it yours. With multiple locations, personalized service from knowledgeable associates, and convenient finance plans to fit your budget. Ashley Home Store, the official furniture store of the Dallas Cowboys. This is home.
I mean, if you haven't thought about switching to Geico, frankly, you're missing out. The mobile app makes it easy to manage your policy, even way out here.
Your marshmallows.
Get digital ID cards, emergency roadside service, even follow. Whoa. Oops. That cheeky little thing got away from me. My bad.
Geico. It's easy to manage your policy whenever, wherever.
Can I trouble you for another marshmallow?
Get excited, Whataburger fans. Our one-of-a-kind mushroom Swiss burger is back.
And now it's an all-time favorite.
If you love mushrooms, you're going to love this burger.
The double cheese, the mushrooms was absolutely amazing.
It's a really good balance between the mushrooms and the Swiss, and that au jus sauce on top.
The creamy au jus sauce.
It really complements the mushrooms. Everything just works perfectly together.
It's just perfect. Every bite's perfect.
It's not just a mushroom Swiss burger, it's a Whataburger mushroom Swiss burger.
All right, a lot of action, a lot of games to get to tonight. Let's go ahead and start off. We saw a big play from this game earlier. South Oak Cliff dominant tonight, and it's been a story of the defense for the South Oak Cliff team.
God bless Oak Cliff. That's my hood.
Yeah, man. They needed a feel good. They needed a feel good game today. 38-0 here in the third quarter. Jason Todd, I mean, with the victory versus Skyline, they needed a game like this. But that defense, man, they came to play today, and they are shutting out Wilma Hutchins. And also, we got a field goal. A good field goal. I mean, they couldn't kick a field goal last week to save their life. But also, Cameron Davis getting to the outside. And man, my guy, man, Markevius. Even my guy.
I thought Cameron Davis was your guy.
Cameron Davis is my guy too. I got a lot of guys on that South Oak Cliff team, but South Oak Cliff is doing it in all areas. Woo. Also in special team, and he's taking one to the house, young man. No, not so much to the house. He took it to the suburbs there. But hey. We got a lot of good stuff going in this game. And Kyle Douglas Jr., have we heard anything about his status, if he's going to be able to come back? Wow.
Well, he didn't play in this game, and I think that does say a little bit about this game. I think you got to give a lot of credit to Sock, but I think you got to keep in mind when you're looking at this data point that they were without, or that the Hutch was without Kyle. So I think you give credit to Salk, but I think you also put a little bit of an asterisk next to this loss for Hutchins and say that you hope that they get him back at some point before district play, because they kind of, I think, go as far as he goes.
This young man is running away. And I'm telling you, South Oak Cliff has so much speed that they play with. That's a turnover, bad turnover right there. Mikevian Titus is the kid that I was mentioning. Mm-hmm. He's not doing too much in the pass. He has 91 yards passing, but when you go down here to rushing, he has 63 yards rushing. Now, the quarterback for the South Oak Cliff Golden Bears, Rodney Hudson, 6 carries, 122 yards, and 1 touchdown. So they're getting it done. Cameron Davis has 2 touchdowns. So a lot of good ball still left. The game right now, I believe, is in the fourth quarter. And we'll get a stat here pretty good. 45-0. I mean,
a lot of negatives. Holy smokes.
1 first down,
1 passing yard.
Look, that's as close to a beat down as you're going to get, and you still have so much time left. I mean, I believe we're still in the third quarter in that game.
That's very lopsided.
God, so probably one of those games where you just want to let the clock run. Now, look, Frage, I don't know about an asterisk next to this, because even if Kyle Douglas Jr. had played, they may have gotten out of the goose egg column. Right. But as far as athletes are concerned, it's, South Oak Cliff has all of them.
Well, and I think that's why you give Sock a lot of credit in this. I just curious if Hutchins would have put a goose egg.
I love how Sock can go. They go 13 penalties, 110 yards, just absolutely playing undisciplined football, win 45.
And that's the thing, and that is the thing right there that you point out, Eric, that is very important, because when you come up against those teams that are disciplined, that can meet your physicality and also your speed, those penalties are what ends up plaguing you versus an Alito. Okay,
well, you can't have over 100 yards of friggin' penalties.
Well, if you go back to the Alito game, I covered that game for us last year. Their biggest downfall was penalties. They just shot themselves in the foot too much, with just stuff that wasn't necessary. Mm-hmm. And I think you look at Sock; they have all the talent in the world to play with, a Alito team like that last year and this year as well. But they just got to tighten up stuff like that. And you can get away with it in a game like this. Right. But like you said, later down the road, you got to clean that stuff up.
Yeah. Also, and the thing to look at as well, and last week talking about the Duncanville game, Coach Jason Todd, he obviously is someone that worships his mentor and Coach Reginald Samples. And so last week's game was a measuring stick game. How do we compare to what the best there is? I mean, obviously 6A, 5A, you start wanting to say that there's no comparison because of the size of the school. But as far as raw athletes, South Oak Cliff can line up with anybody. Yep. Because of it. But the discipline of being able to play sound football and the physicality that Duncanville brought to the table, I don't think that they matched it, because Duncanville came right out, bam, and socked them, and it's lack of a better word.
Yeah, they got socked.
They got socked.
And Sox had a lot of talent going back to when Emmett Jones was the coach back in my days of high school. So that's never been an issue. And I've been a big Sox fan because of that, because I like recruiting, I like the guys they've produced. But the one thing that I've always kind of held back on is some of that discipline stuff. And that's kind of what separates really good teams from great teams come a deep playoff run, is everybody's good that deep in the playoffs, and then it just becomes little stuff like that with discipline and making the right stuff at the right time. And you just got to clean that stuff up. And I think that's kind of what's capped Sock at that regional final type round. And really, they've had state championship type level talent. and they can get past that if they just clean stuff up as far as, a regional final, regional semifinal.
Yeah, guy, if you look at the area that they're in, I mean, there are athletes galore in that area, and they are starting to get all of those guys in the area.
Dallas's team.
Absolutely, and also with the rebuilding of the school, we talked about that last week in the interview that I had with Coach Jason Todd, and just return to the Mecca. Yep. That's his motto and what he's going with. And you look at teams, even at the next level, on the college level, the Miamis that have gotten away with playing that style, but also having that twinge of undiscipline through the penalties that they get for unsportsmanlike penalties and things like that. But SOC has got to shore those things up, because they're not going to do it if they can't get past Aledo. The Bearcats will be waiting every year, every time.
Well, and there's nothing wrong with having a little dog in you. I like that about SOC. But you just got to know when to rein it back at the right times and when to apply it, So,
absolutely.
I think it's a good thing for SOC, but I think you just got to use it the appropriate way.
Yeah, we just got another game go. Final Plano East and Sac It was a 36-14 win for Sac out there in Plano tonight.
Well, this is the third time those two programs have met in the last year. They played each other twice. One time in this non-district game last year, then they met each other in the bi-district round as well. Sac getting the bi-district win last year in the playoffs. So looks like the Mustangs roll to another win.
How about that for balance? 113 passing and 113 rushing. I mean, they couldn't have planned it any better to say we did it on both ends, guys. But Sac has been a team, and we were talking about earlier about them not having the defense that they've had in the past years by the yards that they've been giving up. But they seem to get it together tonight with Plano East, which I'm sure if Walchuk was here, this would be one of his games that he'd talk about how undisciplined and how ready Plano East would be to lay down for the Mustangs.
And then we had a low-scoring game, Hebron and Fossil Ridge. That one just went final as well, a 21-7 win for Hebron over Fossil Ridge. So a nice defensive showing for that Hebron team.
Well, and that's not too shocking for me anyway after I watched what they did against Martin last week. Yes, they took a pretty big L, and that kind of made the odd part of the game was how good their defense played. Talking to Coach Wager over at Martin after the game, he said, we got the win, but if you look at what Hebron did really on defense the whole night, it's a really impressive unit, especially in their front seven. And you can see they did it again, only allowing 11 rushing yards for the Ridge Panthers. It's pretty impressive.
Well, and Hebron ran the ball so well. I mean, we talked about Isaiah Broadway, the sophomore, coming in the running back position, 24 carries, 124 yards. They also have Jason Lott adding almost 50 yards and a pair of rushing touchdowns. But their quarterback, Carson Harris, 18 rushes, 138 yards. You can see they didn't do much through the air, but when you have a ground attack like that where you got two running backs and one in Isaiah Broadway, who's an absolute stud, as a sophomore, already getting looks from plenty of schools. The dude's going to be a top-flight recruit over the next couple of years. But then a guy like Carson Harris, who can get it done through the air a little bit, but especially on the ground, and when he's going to rack up 138 yards on the ground like that, and then you can depend on your defense to hold the opposing team to under 20 yards rushing. I mean, that's a recipe for victory. And you said it, Hebron last week, their defense played really, really well. It was such a weird game. They shot themselves in the foot throughout the game, but especially early on, that first half in particular. So they cleaned it up. We know that they were going to get back to the drawing board, and they were certainly going to work on all three phases, especially special teams last week during practice, because they were getting smoked. And special teams, whether it was a punt, a kickoff, whatever it was, they couldn't figure it out last week. They get it figured out this week, and they get back on track. But that rushing attack for Hebron is the real deal.
Well, I think when you think of Hebron last year with Trajan Bridges,
that's it. That's the name.
So everybody thinks, okay, this is another passing attack team. But if you were to watch Carson Harris and even look at his two offers he has, or two service academy schools in Army and Navy, he fits that type of mold of a service academy type quarterback. He can kind of get it done through the air, but their bread and butter with him, Lott, and Broadway is really going to be on the ground. And so I think with this year's Hawk team, I think that's really what they would prefer to do as far as attacking an opposing defense.
Yeah, Hebron is another school that is in a hotbed area. They get a lot of athletes to Hebron. Isaiah Broadway, sophomore running back, is going to be around for a long time, and we're going to have a lot to say about this kid because he's putting up some pretty gaudy numbers here early. But I'm shocked. I'm a little shocked because, from Hebron last week, they didn't look like they just kind of out of sorts, but they're getting it back on track. And that's a district that they play in that's pretty tough. And coming up, they're going to have a lot of opponents gunning for them. And so we'll see because they're going to have to be able to not only run the ball, they're going to have to be able to throw it as well.
And that's ultimately going to be their Achilles heel is they're not going to be able to throw the ball this year. I mean, when you had a guy like Trajan Bridges, he can make up for a lot of inefficiencies at the quarterback position and at the skill positions.
Because he can just go up and get it.
Exactly. You could just throw that thing up. If you're Carson Harris, just, hey, take off down the field, Trajan, we'll hit you. And this year they don't have a guy like that on the outside that can do that for them. And then, like we said, we know the limitations when it comes to passing the ball for their quarterback, Carson Harris. But on games where they can just get it done on the ground, their defense is always going to show up. I mean, they'll be in games with that. But at the end of the day, the reason why they just miss out on the playoffs or have an early playoff exit is going to be because they can't throw the ball.
And we had a lopsided score late in the fourth quarter. Mansfield against Manfield Legacy. It's 37-0 Mansfield up on Legacy right now, late in the fourth.
Oh, wow. Very good.
Who was right on that?
Looks like you were.
Me and Chuck, baby.
Well, those are two bad football teams getting together and playing a bad football game. So congrats to Mansfield.
No love. Boy, there must be a vendetta against MISD.
Right.
No, I mean, it's just the truth. I mean, Port Legacy, they lost all their good players, Catalan and company.
What do you want to call it, the toilet bowl?
This is a Tiger program that just 2 years ago was playing in a regional semifinal. So they've kind of hit a little bit of a rough path in the last couple of years. And tough story with their head coach who has cancer as well. So it's been a little bit of a rough couple of years for the Tigers. But
well, thanks for not making me feel bad.
Come on, Eric.
So I was going to say there's some stuff surrounding the program. Kennedy Brooks was obviously a big name for them a couple of years ago. The running back that's at Oklahoma now,
no doubt.
But this is a big win for them. I know Legacy's probably taking a big step back with the guys that graduated last year. Jalen Catalan just being one of them.
But even last year, they suffered injuries to a lot of their studs, particularly Catalan, and they still hung in a lot of games that they played. I mean, they were one of those teams that you just had to have a lot of love and respect for because a lot of their best players, and Catalan is at the top of that list, got injured. And he got injured early. I think it was the first game of the year.
Against Jinx.
Yeah, so, I mean, they had to go all year without their best player, and then just every game it felt like another guy was falling down with an injury. And they kept hanging on, and I was hoping this year they'd bring that same sort of fight. But at some point, when your talent is lacking that much, it's just going to, I mean, you're just not going to be able to win games.
Well, and if you think they also had Enoch Jackson and Torian Carter, who are their two defensive linemen that went off to Arkansas. So they had some bruisers up front on the defense that could kind of hold them around in some games. They don't have that this year as much. They've got Malachi Mitchell on the backside defense, who's a safety who's getting a lot of love. But yeah, I think it's going to be a little bit of a step back for Legacy, and I think Timberview's the Mansfield school in that Highland Park District 5A D1. That's going to kind of take a step forward.
Well, and talking about Timberview, Timberview, and Mansfield Lake Ridge, it's 44-17. That one's still in the third quarter. Timberview with a pretty large lead over Lake Ridge tonight.
That's impressive. Yeah, that's impressive. I mean, Timberview. Look, I think Timberview is actually kind of getting slept on. I think Highland Park and Lancaster got a lot of the attention in 5A D1 heading into the season. But like what we were talking about, geez. Well, and like we were talking about though, heading into the season, they got some key transfers with the Dunn kids heading, the Holeby brothers heading on over back to Timberview, and that's just that's 51 points. Wow.
Yeah, looking at the yardage. Obviously you got to point to is the penalties for Lake Ridge. They're definitely shooting themselves in the foot. Don't have much chance of winning the football game. We go back to the sock game. They have that many penalties, but they're still pitching the shutout. So you got to say that Timberview has got a lot going for themselves. When you look at those rushing yards, 247 yards rushing for Timberview. So they're milking the clock and they're taking to them.
Well, and that's what they do well. They've got Stacy Sneed, Monte Dawson, and now the older Holeby and Jaden, who's a Texas commit. They've got three studs at running back. I mean, absolute studs. So they're loaded. That's, I think, going to be their bread and butter this year as well, is going to be through the run game. But they've also got impressive guys on defense as well. So they're a well-rounded team.
Yeah.
Jalen Kimber being the big DB that's going to Georgia, their corner. So.
One of the other big games tonight, fellas, that we didn't expect to be necessarily a big game that has turned into a big game at my old stomping grounds at NISD Stadium. Byron Nelson, the Bobcats, against the Colony.
They pulled off?
Well, it's still there's still some time left here, but it looks like Trophy Club Byron Nelson has taken the lead late into the fourth quarter, under a minute left in that game, and it looks like Trophy Club Byron Nelson
now
is
that's an upset.
Maybe putting the Colony on upset alert. I mean, they certainly are. 40 seconds left in that game. It looks like the Colony down by 3. I don't know if an extra point will make it 4, but a one-score game in the Colony, Mikey Harrington and company, on a night where Miles Price has just a stellar night, 4 touchdowns, all the yards in the world, getting it done through the air and on the ground. And they put up 48 points. The offense did their job. That Colony defense not showing up, and all the credit in the world to Byron Nelson, Hudson White, and Max Modesti. Those guys, I mean, that's going to be we talk about guys like Blake Short and Pierce Hudgens.
May be the next one.
That might be the next one next year when they're seniors, and they're already doing it this year. I said they're sort of a year away.
Right.
Maybe not. Maybe they're just growing each and every week, and they've been in games, really, really tight games. They fought hard. They lost 28-27, I think, opening week of the season. Last year was a close game, or last week was a close game as well. And now you see today, there it is. 48-51, and the Bobcats are up right now with about 40 seconds left in that game. I think those turnovers play a huge factor in it, and we saw that they took a kickoff return for a touchdown. I mean, when you're a team like Byron Nelson right now, you're a little bit younger. You're going up against a team in the Colony that is the better team. There's really no question about it, but you get them at home on Friday the 13th with a little full moon action, little kickoff return for a touchdown early on in that game. That sets the tone well, but big-time credit to the junior quarterback, Hudson White, getting it done.
Yeah, Cooper Stillwell, 6 catches, 108 yards, also for Byron Nelson. Like
Junior.
You said, you talk about a young team that may be a year away. Well, I guess they're saying their time is right now. They're not waiting until next year.
And Max Modesti, almost 200 yards on the ground, 4 touchdowns for Byron Nelson. I mean, that right there, that's a running back. That's a stud running back only in his junior year. And again, his quarterback, same thing. And the receiver, Cooper Stillwell, you just mentioned, Heckma, only a junior as well. So their 3-headed monster will be back next year. And this is a team that had 5 returning starters on their defense. So there were some veteran guys there. But man, just that's a surprise win right there. That's a big boy win if they can pull it out, and just all the confidence in the world now if you're Hudson White, the junior quarterback, and all the other young guys on that Byron Nelson offense.
We got one more final here before we take just a quick break. McKinney Boyd and Louisville is a 41-16 win for Louisville at home tonight.
Yeah, that's big for Louisville. They've played well this year. They didn't really play anybody that was good up until this game. This Boyd team was going to be sort of their first test, and they come out scot-free. Louisville getting it done. Their defense has been great all season. Their offense has been really awesome as well. They've put up points, but again, this was sort of the first team that they were going to have to play against that was really worth anything. And on the flip side, Boyd, they're still trying to get things figured out. Their head coach is, it's his first year here. He's been the AD at Coppell for the last 4 years leading up to it, so they're still trying to establish some things there. But they do have a veteran team. They had quite a few guys returning for them, so I expected a little more out of Boyd tonight. But credit to Louisville. I didn't know what they were going to do in terms of who they played the first 2 weeks of the season. Teams like Grand Prairie, and they just smacked the lips off them. And now they go up against Boyd, and they put it on them pretty good. It looks like Louisville might be for real.
Yeah, Louisville has always historically had a pretty good defense up front, and so they proved it tonight. But Taylon Green, 18 completions, 227 yards. He's been what the Farmers have needed, and literally pretty efficient on. I mean, if you look at the stats, he's spreading the ball around. No one is jumping off the stat sheet, but Damian Martinez, 11 catches, 65 yards, but 3 touchdowns for the Farmers, and so they've been putting in a lot of work. 41-16, 423 yards on offense. Pretty even game as far as penalties are concerned, but it's the first down differential that's definitely made the difference for them.
All right, well, we are into the second hour of Friday Night Stars Overtime. We'll take a quick break here, but coming up on the other side of the break, we got some more finals and games coming into a close, so stay with us here on Whataburger Friday Night Stars.
Arnold Schwarzenegger.
I ate a lot of meat. They showed us commercials.
Steak,
That's what a man eats. Selling that idea that real men eat meat. Serious man food. But you got to understand, that's marketing. That's not based on reality.
I've been teaching fighting techniques to government agencies for more than 15 years. Then, I got injured. Unable to teach for at least 6 months. I spent more than 1,000 hours studying science on recovery and nutrition, and stumbled across a study about the Roman gladiators.
The gladiators were predominantly vegetarian.
How could the original professional fighters be so powerful, eating only plants?
When I made the switch to a plant-based diet, I qualified for my 3rd Olympic team. I broke 2 American records. I was like, man, I should have done this a long while ago.
When I went plant-based, I wasn't sure if I was going to survive. And I actually became like a machine.
One of the biggest misconceptions in sports nutrition is that we have to have animal protein to perform at a high level. That's just not true.
Sometimes you have to do things that you know your competitors aren't doing.
Today's blood and yesterday's blood.
Sam? I think this is going to wake a lot of people up.
I was recovering better, not getting as sore. This was our best season in the last 15 years, and we had 14 guys on plant-based diets.
We all want to feel great, have more energy. Cholesterol was 276. Today, 169.
Whoa, now you're talking.
Most guys my age can keep up with the grandchildren. My grandchildren can't keep up with me.
It's not one set of dietary guidelines for improving your performance as an athlete, another one for reversing heart disease, reversing diabetes. It's the same for all of them.
Someone asked me, how could you get as strong as an ox without eating any meat? And my answer was, have you ever seen an ox eating meat?
Welcome back to Friday Night Stars, and right here we see a nice play of punt blocked. And that's a good shot right there. Joshua Price on the sidelines, getting up close and personal. That's a nice play right there.
He better be glad he blocked that kick, because that kid was going to kick him in the gut. Jesus Christ, that was as close to a kick in the stomach that I've seen in a long time, man.
So fortunately, he got in the way of the football and didn't take the cleat right to the gut. We got some more games coming closer to a close. Flower Mound, Marcus, and Waxahachie. It's a comfortable lead for Marcus, 48-31 into the fourth quarter.
Yeah, and it looks like Flower Mound Marcus here is going to, we thought Flower Mound was going to pretty much run away with that district, and now after seeing Flower Mound get dominated by a Prosper team, it really opens the door for a team like Marcus, and we'll see Marcus and Flower Mound get together and play here in the next few weeks. But, that's great for a team like Marcus, putting up a lot of points, and Coach Atkinson on that offensive side of the ball, that's what he wants to do, obviously. That's really why they brought him here, and over 600 yards of total offense, 407 passing yards. That's pretty incredible. And then 200 on the ground. I mean, that was just a dominant performance offensively for Marcus.
Yeah, got to say something about Tyson Edwards also, man. 28 carries, 199 yards, and 3 touchdowns. But how about Garrett Nusslemeyer?
Yeah, my boy.
Yeah, Garrett Nusslemeyer. I mean, you talked about him in the 707 circuit and what he's been able to do and getting those 5 stars, and he's definitely living up to that.
Well, and that's the thing is, my key for this game was I wanted to see them kind of let Nuss open it up and do his thing, and they have. He's got 407 yards passing and pretty efficient in doing it with a 60% completion rating, and then he's got 2 interceptions, want to clean that up, but 5 touchdowns through the air. This is the game I wanted to see from Nuss, and I'm happy for him.
And Tyson Edwards getting it done on the ground, 199 rushing yards, 3 touchdowns, also 127 yards through the air, and a receiving touchdown. And then you add Christian Espinoza into that, who's got 130 yards receiving and 2 touchdowns. This just shows, Nussmeyer's got some weapons to work with. We know what his abilities are. The dude can really rip it, and the lineage is there. Coach Nussmeier, the Cowboys. He's an offensive mind that the Cowboys absolutely love to have, and we know that Garrett Nussmeier as a quarterback. We saw him as a young gun, and he's kind of bounced around a little bit, but now that he's getting a little bit older, a little bit more mature, and you're whipping it around for 400 plus yards, 5 touchdowns.
Yeah, that's big.
When you have weapons like Tyson Edwards and Christian Espinoza, that's really nice.
All right, let's take a trip over to the Gopher Warrior Bowl. Still in the third quarter, Lancaster up 28-13 on South Grand Prairie. Still a lot of time, and South Grand Prairie has some time to maybe perhaps tie things up.
I'm really shocked in this game because I thought that the Tigers would run away from South Grand Prairie, but it doesn't look like that's what they're doing. Glenn Rice Jr. has 190 yards passing, 3 touchdowns. Hadn't thrown any interceptions, but Trey Bradford, I know you know a lot about the Tigers team. They have some pretty good running backs, man, and Trey Bradford and DQ James.
Well, and speaking of Glenn Rice, he's a former South Grand Prairie Warrior. He actually played his freshman year there last year before transferring on over. So this game was a little personal for him. I don't know if in a bad way necessarily, but you want to obviously play well against your former school, and so far he's leading the Tigers to a lead, and hopefully they pull it out and get the victory.
Yeah, that's and I'm like I said, I'm really shocked when I look at the score because I know that the Tigers have a lot of weapons. But there you go. It looks like they're pulling away from the SGP. 42-27. Looking at those rushing yards, man, 237 on the ground, 190. The turnovers is really what's been killing them. 2 turnovers and the penalties as well. I mean, kind of lopsided because only 15 first downs to SGP 17.
Well, and Trey Bradford had a big 56-yard run to kind of open up the game there in the first quarter. He actually picked up an LSU offer last night. So
Did he?
Maybe he's going to join his buddy Lorando, who's already an LSU commit and kind of one of the biggest recruiters for LSU right now. So you may have 2 Lancaster Tigers maybe becoming future Bayou Bengals.
And I think Glenn Rice Jr. at the quarterback position is going to just get better and better as the season goes on. Yeah, he's really, really young, and coming into the year, we didn't even know who was going to be their quarterback. Was it going to be Glenn Rice Jr.? Was it going to be Phil McCoy?
Yep.
Well, Phil McCoy hasn't done much, and Glenn Rice Jr. has really taken over for them. We know about Trey Bradford at the running back position, and this a Lancaster team. They had 7 returners on offense, 7 returners on defense, so they're a veteran bunch for the most part. And they got 5 seniors that are in the top 100 in the state. And that's led by Lorando Johnson, the LSU commit. He's playing corner. He's long, 6'1", 190, really, really fast. And they just got speed galore on defense. Guys like James Grace at defensive end. I mean, they got a lot of talent there. And so, but on the flip side of that, credit to South Grand Prairie. Granted, they played them at home, but South Grand Prairie to have 3 turnovers in that game, and Drake Logan at quarterback, who there's some question marks about. I think everybody feels pretty good about him in the long run, but against the Lancaster defense, I thought he was probably going to get dominated, but almost 300 yards passing, couple of touchdowns for him. That's pretty impressive. Obviously, it looks like Lancaster pulled away here late in the game, but that was a pretty tight ball game. I think South Grand Prairie is one of those teams. They're a tough out every week, and we saw it against Southlake. We saw it last week. They put it on Eaton pretty bad. But South Grand Prairie, they're a pretty good team. Lancaster, I think, will get better and better as the season goes with their young quarterback because they have enough veterans on both sides of the ball. It's just about Glenn Rice Jr. as a sophomore and how he grows. And tonight, 190 yards, 3 touchdowns against a speedy defense led by my boy over there. I got to show him some love for SGP. Oh, my gosh. Milt Pfeiffer, the dude at linebacker, is an absolute freak show. And Marcel McDuffie as well. I mean, he plays little running back, little linebacker for SGP as well. So 2 solid teams, but I think Lancaster, as the year goes on with Glenn Rice Jr., is going to be pretty fun.
Well, and I'm going to sound like a broken record, but I've been saying this for over a year now, that Lancaster could get to that next level as a team if they could ever figure out the play at quarterback and just their offensive game in general. Rodney Hudson, the sock kid, was actually their quarterback last year, and they were just up and down. He had his moments, and then there was some inconsistency as well. So I was kind of curious to see what Glenn would do this season. He impressed me. I know they only put up 3 points against Duncanville in the game that I was at, but he showed moments where they just seemed to have a little extra energy with him out there leading the way on their offensive side of the ball. And, I think this is a good game for them to put up 42 points. South usually has a good defensive unit. So this is a game where Lancaster's finally showing some really consistent and true life on offense against what is usually a good defensive team.
Yeah, and they should be a team that competes with Highland Park. I mean, they get them at home this year. Last year, if I recall, it was a really, really good game.
And that was the game that I reached out to Guy and was telling him how shocked I was. Lancaster shot themselves in the foot last year in the Highlander. They played a really tough game, and Highland Park had to come back and beat those guys. But things like your young team, right. and you say it well, man, because I really feel like that about a lot of the teams that I see in this area. They have athletes galore, but at the one position that you really need that athlete, you gotta have a quarterback, because everybody's playing the same kind of spread offense, RPO, and you gotta have a good decision maker back there. And if you don't have a guy that can make those intermediate passes, it's all for naught, because, again, it only makes you one-dimensional, and also you're trying to run with your quarterback who's also you're depending on the passing ball.
Well, and if you look at the big games for Lancaster last year, they put up only 14 points against Highland Park and lost 33-14, I believe, or 39-14 was scored, something like that. And then when they played John Tyler in the playoffs and was their ultimate demise, I think they lost 21-10 or somewhere in that ballpark. So they only – when they got to the big games, they struggled on offense. The games that they should do what they do against teams, they took care of business, and that was fine. But with Derek Cooper and Rodney last year at quarterback, there was just too much inconsistency. And when you have guys like that have so much talent at the skill positions, you just got to find a way to be consistent somehow to get them the ball.
Yeah, and they take on Highland Park, by the way, at home Friday, November 1st, which is also the same Friday that Allen and Prosper get together for their district match. So that's going to be a fun one, November 1st. That's going to be a fun night. Got to
circle that one on the calendar for sure. Another game in the third quarter. Rockwall 38 over Arlington Bowie. It's 38-21 right now in the third quarter for Rockwall.
I'll tell you what, man, Braden Locke, talk about having somebody at the skill position. This kid he's doing it again. 14 completions, 234 yards, and 3 touchdowns. But, man, the guy that is just absolutely mind-boggling is Jackson Smith Jiba, excuse me. We have to say his whole name. That's when you got respect, when you got to say the man.
You can just call him Jackson. He's known.
Is that what it is?
Just call him Jackson.
JSN. That's whatever we got to do. I mean, we know who we're talking about. This kid is amazing, and what he has been able to do for Rockwall is also outstanding. And look, going back to Arlington Bowie is coming into today's game with a young quarterback, unproven. We didn't know much about him, and Drayvon Ponder, but he's also, played about 92 yards passing. But the one thing being the one interception that he had. But Marcellus Sims for Bowie, 13 carries, 140 yards, and also Drayvon Ponder's been doing it with his legs as well. And so he's made up for a lot of it. But, man, right now, 52-27 for Rockwall, and they're just running away with this game, playing, kind of error-free. 4 penalties, 40 yards off to Bowie's 13-103. Not that much of a difference in first downs, but when you go up there and look at the yardage, it's been a big-time difference because, look, Bowie has 271 yards rushing to Rockwall's 94, but the difference has been in the passing game with that 234 yards.
Yeah, you can't beat Rockwall if you can't, go throw for throw with them, and that's been the problem for Bowie tonight. Not to mention the over 100 yards in penalties for Bowie. You can't do that. You're on the road. You're already, you're at a disadvantage because you don't have the same offensive firepower as a team like Rockwall does. And they ran the ball well, credit to them. And you mentioned it, not only from the running back position, but Ponder at the quarterback spot, 100 yards on the ground and 3 touchdowns for him. So, I mean, against a normal team, Bowie's going to go out and win, and we've seen him do it the last 2 weeks. But a team like Rockwall and Braden Locke and Jackson Smith and Jiba, you got to be able to go and put up 40, 50 points on the board. And if you're not throwing the ball, if you're throwing for less than 100 yards in a game, it's just not going to happen for you.
Yeah, and that's the difference. That's the difference. I mean, you run for 270. The average team runs for 270 yards. They win that game.
No.
Easy. They win that game. They milk the clock. But what Rockwall has that a lot of teams don't have is Jiba. They can stretch the field, big playability, and so even when you take them down and milk the clock, they can come right back down in 4 or 5 plays and score.
Well, and that's the thing is Jackson's got 7 receptions tonight for 158 yards. And he's averaging, 20-plus yards a catch. But that's just a normal night at the office.
You know what I mean? The big playability.
That's just what he does.
The big playability for this kid going. Ohio State commit would really have loved to see that kid stay in the state of Texas, but he's making a good decision.
Right.
Next week, they take on Rockwall takes on Arlington Martin, the other Arlington school. That's gonna be a big game. That's probably gonna be one of our highlighted matchups for next week. That should be a fun one.
Another one of the highlighted matchups for tonight. Cedar Hill 49-21 win over Mesquite Horn. That one just went final, so a good win for Cedar Hill tonight.
Yeah, Cedar Hill has been that team for a long time that you just kind of up and down. It's been the quarterback position, as we talked about, and just being able to find a guy that can actually get the athletes the ball. Caden Salter had a pretty good night tonight, 209 yards, 1 touchdown, one interception, but Kevin Young is the story. I mean, 8 carries, 121 yards. And other than that, Cedar Hill just kind of played keep away and milked the clock. 583 total yards for those guys. And again, 31, jeez Louise. 31 first downs. And so, oh my God, they just played keep away.
Well, and the thing about Cedar Hill is they might be the best 1-2 team, especially in the area, if not the state right now. I mean,
no question.
Their first 2 losses, there's nothing to like shake your head about at yourself. So, give them credit bouncing back this week against a pretty good Horn team and finally getting a win in the win column. And Kane Salter's impressed so far this season. I think Cedar Hill, despite their 1-2 record, is a team that we need to look out for as we go throughout this season.
Yeah, they're in that District of Doom.
Yep.
Well, and their first 2 weeks of their schedule was pretty doom-worthy with Allen and then Denton Guyer at the Cotton Bowl, a little neutral site game going on there last week, and that game came down to the wire. Caden Salter played well. I mean, Cedar Hill played really, really well, but they've played 2 really tough teams out of the gate. It was nice for them to get a Horn team tonight that they could put away pretty early.
Well, Wilmer Hutchins ran into a team of doom tonight, and this one just going final 61-0 South Oak Cliff. With the victory over Wilmer Hutchins, 61-0. As we take a look here at the final stats, negative 24 yards total for Wilmer Hutchins.
Yeah, nothing to feel good about on that one.
Say that again, Nick.
Nothing to feel good about on that one. I mean, look, South Oak Cliff needed it, and we talked about it, and we talked about where Jason Todd is trying to take this team. It's the one thing that they have to look back on and say, look, we got to get this corrected, and that's 15 penalties, 15 for 130, and that'll cost you every time versus the good teams. And so, but the takeaway from this is that what South Oak Cliff wants to do is they want to rush the ball. They want to be able to run it down your throat, but they know that in order to get to the next level, they're going to have to be more consistent in the passing game. And look, let's just tell it how it is. When we talked to Jason Todd last year and all through the year, he talks about the same thing about the district schedule being a little soft, but he's trying to do a few things in those district games that he knows he's gonna be able to put in his suitcase and take with him into the playoffs. That's playing stingy defense and being able to throw the ball when you have to, and that's what all the good teams do to get to the state title.
What's more incredible, a team that had negative 24 yards of total offense, a team that had 1 yard passing, or a team that had 1 first down?
Probably all of it.
There's no question all of it, but goodness gracious.
You got to work hard to do all of that. Right?
You really do. I mean, it takes talent to only go out there and get 1 passing yard and 1 first down.
So do you look at the tape if you're
Wilmer Hutchins?
Yeah,
no.
Is there any positive?
Well, it's
maybe.
Like when you don't
if he came out alive, I think that's a positive.
Yeah, and I think, if they can get Kyle back at some point, Kyle Douglas, they'll be fine for 4. I still think they could be a threat in that.
Yeah, they can go get 2 or 3 first downs with that guy.
Well, yeah, he's a pretty special player. He was one of the leaders in the area in passing last year, so that's a big loss for them tonight. I'm not saying that he would have just been the complete difference maker and would have made up for the 61 points, but I think he makes up for some of it. And the thing with Sauk is, it's not like they just have guys on offense. They've got Cortland Flowers, they've got John Davis, 2 studs in the secondary. I'm sure they've got a lot of speed in the front 7 as well. I can't think of his name. They've got a defensive lineman that he's got the swag of like a receiver. He doesn't look like your typical D lineman. So
does he got the Kobe Minor swag? Does he come out there?
He's got his own version
orange?
of it. So they've got a lot of speed on defense still, just like they did last year. So the Sauk offense probably is going to get a lot of credit tonight, but the defense as well, letting up 0 points.
Yeah, they know that in order to be a name to reckon with. Games like this, they have to win. And that's why versus Skyline, the first game, everybody was kind of shocked because Skyline literally stayed in that game with them for 4 quarters.
Well, Salk had to come back in that
Exactly. And so that was the one surprise. And I don't know if that's a South Oak Cliff team that's looking ahead to Duncanville. We won't make up any excuses for them, but a lot of teams do that. But Wilmer Hutchins, you got to credit them for trying to step up to the plate and play a 5A school and see how they measure up, and they got their answer. And it just like South Oak Cliff did last week with Duncanville, they got their answer. It's a similar thing. So they just returned the favor to Wilmer Hutchins, and they had to do it.
And I think some of that is just depth. As you trickle down the classifications, depth just becomes a thing.
Absolutely.
So we'll see what happens to the Hutch and how they bounce back from this. But they won't have to play a team like that.
No.
As far as depth goes, for most of their 4A schedule, there are some tough 4A teams out there, but for the majority of their district schedule, at least, that's not going to be a problem.
Well, Eric, at your old stomping grounds, they had quite the finish between the Colony and Byron Nelson. We'll get to that on the other side of the break. We're at the home stretch here on Friday Night Stars Overtime. Stay with us as we have a very exciting game over there at Byron Nelson and Colony. Stay with us.
This is Dak Prescott. When it comes time to shop for my tailgate favorites, I go to my stores, Albertsons and Tom Thumb, where they offer fresh organics and large assortments of local produce and sell only USDA choice meats. Get 10% off of your groceries every Dallas Cowboy game day when you wear your Cowboy jerseys. Albertsons and Tom Thumb, the winning combination and the official supermarket and pharmacy of the Dallas Cowboys.
Gear up for Back to Sport at Academy Sports and Outdoors.
It's in all of us, and we won't hold it back. Not one little bit. Nope, we embrace it, letting it fuel our passions, pushing us deeper than we thought possible and keeping us curious. It's what sets us apart from the herd. It's how we come up with the ideas that make people say, why didn't I think of that? See, when you nurture the creativity and passion that's in all of us, you'll learn nothing is out of reach.
Ashley Home Store, the #1 furniture and mattress store in America. We have all the major mattress brands at a guaranteed low price. Plus, we have furniture for every room in the house and decorator accessories to make it yours. With multiple locations, personalized service from knowledgeable associates, and convenient finance plans to fit your budget. Ashley Home Store, the official furniture store of the Dallas Cowboys. This is home.
Get excited, Whataburger fans. Our one-of-a-kind mushroom Swiss burger is back.
And now it's an all-time favorite. If you love mushrooms, you're going to love this burger.
The double cheese, the mushrooms was absolutely amazing.
It's a really good balance between the mushrooms and the Swiss, and that au jus sauce on top.
The creamy au jus sauce.
It really complements the mushrooms. Everything just works perfectly together.
It's just perfect. Every bite's perfect.
It's not just a mushroom Swiss burger, it's a Whataburger mushroom Swiss burger.
Well, what an ending at Northwest ISD Stadium with about 40 seconds left. The Colony comes back and defeats Byron Nelson 55-51. What a kind of walk-off win for the Colony tonight to avoid a bit of an upset.
Unbelievable, man. I mean, what a game it was, and we didn't even think it would be this close because the Colony is a team that we have a lot of respect for, particularly because their offense is so potent with Mikey Harrington at quarterback. The dude just threw for 1 million yards, it felt like, last year. He's got Miles Price, the newest Texas Tech commit from just a couple of days ago, and they just got weapons all over the place. Miles Price had an unbelievable game.
Yeah, he played out of his mind.
It was Mikey Harrington finding Christian Gonzalez streaking up up the seam for
That's
a
your guy.
21-yard touchdown with one. I said one second remaining to give the Colony the 55-51 victory on a night where, I mean, Mikey Harrington, 33 of 38 for 460 yards, 6 touchdown passes. Pretty incredible. He also had a touchdown on the ground. And then Gonzalez had 10 for 153 in the game winner. And then Miles Price, I mean, goodness gracious, 11 grabs, 172 yards, 4 scores. And he had a highlight reel over the shoulder, one-handed grab at one point in that game that was just absolutely filthy. But I got to tell you, I'm all the credit in the world to Byron Nelson for just being in this game, and they really had what they thought was going to be the game winner at about 40 seconds left.
Has moral victory reared its head tonight.
It certainly feels like that for me, man. This is one of those, I'm like, wow, Byron Nelson, they've been in all their games when they lost by 1 point week 1, and we've talked about it. Their 3 best players offensively are all juniors. They're starting to come into their own, and they dominated today. I mean, Max Matesti at the running back position was almost 200 yards on the ground, bunch of touchdowns, and I'm extremely surprised and impressed with Byron Nelson and how they competed tonight. I think they're moving in the right direction. I've said it since the beginning of the year. I think they're a year away, but they've already shown me more than what I was anticipating even this year. The Colony's a really, really good football team, and they're going to have to get that defense figured out because offensively we know they can really play with anybody, but defensively, if a team like Byron Nelson is putting that many points up on you, 51 points in a game, and Byron played well in all 3 phases. They had a kickoff return for a touchdown. They had a PAT block to go get an extra 2 points.
That'll win you a game.
They scored in a couple of different ways here, and again, it is Friday the 13th with a full moon, but goodness gracious, that Colony defense is going to have to tighten up.
And you say Friday the 13th, a full moon, and they got 666 yards.
Yeah.
My. Couldn't have just gotten one more?
Yeah.
I mean, goodness gracious.
I didn't know if we wanted to mention that.
Yeah, you just want to put that out there. So, there's a lot going on with this game. We may want to go to the next one.
Yeah,
so,
bad juju.
A lot of these games finally going final. We're just going to go down the list, starting with Euless Trinity, Colleyville Heritage, 31-17, Trinity with the win.
Wow. And that's a game that obviously that I'm sure the Colleyville Heritage is going to look back on and say that they had every opportunity to win it. 12 first downs for the Trojans and 11 for Colleyville. But the numbers are lopsided when you get down to the rushing yards. It's just what it is. I mean, 326 yards rushing for Trinity.
Well, not a lot of passing going on this game.
No.
But Trinity doing what they do best, and because of that, they'll be doing a victory haka tonight, which is always the best. So
you got something you got to win.
There's almost nothing more intimidating than that before the game.
Best. It's the greatest.
Oh my gosh.
All right, so a low-scoring game. We had Fossil Ridge and Hebron. Hebron pulls out the win 21-7.
That's awesome.
It's about what we expected.
We checked in on that right toward the end. But
I love games like that. 21-7. You may think it's a stinker, but I mean that means it's a ton of good defense being played.
Well, Hebron just gets it done on the ground. We know they can't really throw the ball. Carson Harris at the quarterback spot doesn't have guys like Trajan Bridges like he had last year that can just go up and get pretty much any ball, good or bad. Mm-hmm. He just doesn't have that anymore. But he gets it done on the ground. We know that with his legs. I mean, he had over 100 yards on the ground today. Isaiah Broadway, the sophomore running back, absolutely a stud. He got some play as a freshman last year. He's really bursting onto the scene this year as a sophomore. He's going to be a freak show in years to come. But he had over 100 yards. I mean, they have a stable of backs. They got 2, Broadway and another guy that do really good job. And then with the dual threat with Carson Harris, their rushing attack is prolific. Their defense is very, very good. The problem for Hebron, and it will be all year long, is they just can't throw the ball. So once it gets down to playing teams that are much better than Fossil Ridge and they're going to put up more points and you got to be able to go score for score, at some point you're going to have to be able to throw the ball, and they just can't do that. But it was a good win for Hebron after just a weird loss last week to Arlington Martin.
Yeah, definitely. I mean, and you say it well, because Hebron, once they become one-dimensional, once they can't throw the ball, and in the district that they're in, you gotta be able to do it because you're gonna come up against you're gonna come up against a bunch of teams here.
Nussmeier and Marcus.
I'm about to say Marcus just threw for 5 touchdowns tonight, 400 plus yards. I mean, you're gonna have to be able to throw the ball in that district.
Louisville, Capel,
there's some
Flower.
teams that can put up points.
That district is becoming more and more solid when you see what Louisville did tonight. I mean, I know it's McKinney Boyd, but still, the way they beat them is the first real competition they faced all year, and Louisville's been dominant on both sides of the ball all all year long. So, and then Coppell, we know how they are with when they played against Allen tonight, and it was a tight game on the road. Coppell almost getting the victory there, and then we know Allen pulled away late. But that district right there is going to be pretty fun.
Well, my buddy Greg Powers, who's over at Next Level Athlete, big recruiting guy here in the state, one of his points is the District of Doom gets a lot of attention at the 6A level, but in his opinion, the most fun district to go watch, just top to bottom, and a lot of people just competing with each other, is that 6A district with the Flower Mounds and Louisville Hebron. And you look at Hebron, yes, they're one-dimensional, but they did what they do well tonight, and that's, get back into a game where they ran the ball effectively, and on defense they were stout, and that's what they're going to do this year if they're going to want to be effective and win some ball games.
Yeah, if you can run the ball and play really good defense, you're going to be in all these games. It's just now when you talk about being a first-round playoff knockout, or maybe you're a playoff team, or maybe you're not a playoff team, that's where you start splitting hairs. But on a week-in, week-out basis, Hebron is going to be absolutely a tough out. Coppell is going to be a tough out. Louisville, extremely tough out.
They
and
just want to avoid shootouts.
No question. Question. But when you go up against teams like Flower Mound, we know they didn't play well tonight, but in general, with a team,
pretty potent offense.
Pretty potent. And then Marcus really flexed their muscle tonight with Nussmeier. They're going to be a team to be reckoned with offensively. They can throw and run the ball.
All right, so next one, we didn't really check in on this game too much. Going final, Decatur with a 41-28 win over Midlothian Heritage.
Yeah, it's a pointsy game, just like we talked about ahead of time. Decatur putting up some pretty good numbers, and that's what they do well. Kind of one of their Achilles heel last year for a lot of the season was their defense, and they started to figure that out as the season progressed. That's why they were able to get to a state semifinal. This year, just looking at what they've done the previous 2 weeks, they're still letting up some points. But, they only let up 4 touchdowns tonight. That's better than what they have done in the past. And, they put up another 40-piece, which is what we know them to do. So, big game for Roman Fuller and the Decatur Eagles.
Yeah, that Decatur offense is something to be reckoned with there. 300 yards passing, 4 touchdowns for Roman Fuller. And to open the game, they started on their own 5-yard line and quickly went 95 yards for a touchdown to open things up like it was absolutely nothing.
Yeah,
so.
Fuller has a ton of big arm, big playability, good receivers, and David Juarez, 8 catches, 128 yards, but also Leighton Harris, 8 catches, 119. So, he's like Oprah out there. You get a touchdown, you get a touchdown.
That's right.
He's passing them out.
All right, and then we talked about this game a lot. Prosper and Flower Mound, this one finally coming to an end. 57 points for Prosper in the 57-34 win over Flower Mound. Any final thoughts? I know we kind of talked about that game a lot, but with the final score, any other thoughts before we move on to the next one?
I'm emotionally invested now with Prosper.
Mm-hmm.
I put out a little stinger out there. I said that if it came down to being the state title was having top-notch facilities, they'd be in it every year. But no, they're bigger. They're bigger than that. Yeah. They came out in their white unis and they put it on Flower Mound today. Look, there are a lot of big games going on in that division, and they're going to have to bring it night in and night out. If they take any breaks leading up to Allen, it may be trouble for them as well. But they took care of business today.
Well, the Jags really kind of closed well. But I think there's probably a good chance that Prosper kind of took their foot off the gas.
When you're up 36-0 at halftime,
that's what happens.
But you got to give Flower Mound credit as far as the gut check, hanging in there and just playing till the end, and finding some ways to make some stuff happen there in the second half. And like I asked y'all earlier, and y'all's response was, I think this said more about Prosper tonight than Flower Mound. So it's an impressive win.
Yeah, JT Lane. JT Lane's got 19 carries, 131 yards, 3 touchdowns. But also Tyler Bailey being able to get it done in the receiving game. That's the thing that we talk about, Eric, is as far as being balanced like that. 574 yards total for Prosper, and that says a lot about those guys. And also, look at what they did on defense, holding Flower Mound and Pierce Hudgens to only 36 yards rushing. And so when they take away one thing and you can't, it kind of put your foot on the gas and run away with them another way, look at what you're able to do. And I think that's what Prosper is saying, is that any kind of game you want to play, we'll take something away from you, make you one-dimensional, and we'll clobber you.
And then on offense, we're going to just have a lot of balance. Look at that. That's what you want. There's not leaning too much towards one direction, whether it's rushing or passing, and that's about as much of a complete win as you can get.
Yeah, Prosper's starting to look like a team that is complete in all three phases of the game. They run really well, they pass really well, and then they bring that defense. And on a night where Raylan Sharp, the quarterback for Allen, goes down, he was banged up all week long. Game time decision, didn't play, so we'll see what that means for the rest of his season. And if he's going to be banged up and not really himself, that bodes well for Prosper. Or if they're going to have to throw Carnegula in there in place of Sharp there at Allen, that's gonna play a huge role in the rest of the season. We're gonna have to wait a while to see Prosper and Allen meet, but Prosper is starting to look like one of those teams that is just really good. They can pretty much do it all. They run well, throw well, and play great defense. It's like, wow, that duo between Jackson Berry and Tyler Bailey, that is a heck of a quarterback receiver duo. And then JT Lane at the running back spot. Prosper is a very well-rounded team.
Yeah, I didn't give them a lot of credit because they beat Rowlett and Timber Creek. And
exactly, and we've seen that with a few teams. Teams like Louisville, they get out, they're playing two crappy teams, and it's like, okay, I don't really know how much to believe in them. And then now it's like, all right, I think I got to be a believer. Yeah. Lone Star, same thing. They get out the two teams to start the season that it's like, okay, I don't really know. These teams aren't that great, and then they go play Highland Park tonight, and it's like, all right, never mind. Frisco, Lone Star, they're here to stay.
And we'll get to Highland Park here in a second, but Saxe Plano East, that one going final, a 36-14 win for Saxe at Plano. An impressive win for Saxe tonight.
No question, Saxe bringing that defense like they usually do, and that's good for them. The problem is, offensively, you can see that they don't really do anything great. They were just okay. The good news was they were playing Plano East. That was really the best thing that happened to Saxe tonight. But this is a Saxe team that any win they get is going to feel good. Their defense, they always bring it, absolutely. So just a solid win for them. But Plano East, we know they're not that great of a team.
Yeah, Saxe's in a tough division as well, and so they're going to be playing some teams, the North Garlands and Lakeview Centennial. Lakeview Centennial got some dudes. It got some dudes. They got a junior.
Kamar Wheaton, the running back.
Yeah, Kamar Wheaton is number one running back in the state of Texas. He came out of nowhere, but a track guy. But they're, like I said, Saxe, even though they get a victory tonight, they can't relax because there are a lot of teams that's going to be in that division that's going to be gunning for them.
Right.
Yeah. And then we had Waxahachie visiting Flower Mound Marcus. It's a 55-38 win for Flower Mound tonight.
Again, on that game, I think the one takeaway I take from it is, yes, Marcus was able to get it done on the ground, 200 yards, but my boy Garrett Nuss finally gets it done in the air, and I think that's because they let him get it done, and good for him.
Yeah, you were saying, I believe we were talking about by halftime that their offensive line just wasn't giving him enough time to get the ball off. Right. Obviously, Coach Atkins got that fixed because you're looking at 407 yards passing. And so if they can continue with this is going to be something that they can carry with them throughout their schedule because, like we just mentioned, that's a tough division to play in when you're just one-dimensional. And so good for Marcus in getting this victory.
Yeah, solid win.
All right, and then the streak has been snapped. Frisco Lone Star coming into Highlander tonight. 30-19, Lone Star with the win over the Highland Park Scots.
Yeah.
Yeah, guys not feeling great about this one. This was just a really dominant victory. I mean, I don't think the score really indicates how much better Lone Star looked tonight than the Scotties did. You look at the turnovers, ultimately that's going to be the Achilles heel in a game like this. When you have 4 turnovers to none, that's going to be problematic for you for the Scots. But look what they did. I mean, the Scots couldn't do anything on the ground, and this is a team that usually has, between Doak Walker and a couple of these other guys, they managed to get above 100 just with those guys. And then Chandler Morris is usually accounting for at least 50 on his own, and he couldn't go anywhere tonight. He didn't have much time to throw, and even when he did, the secondary for Lone Star was absolutely shutting down the receivers. I mean, he couldn't find anybody open down the field. And then offensively, it was the Marvin Mims show.
That's what you got to go
just
to.
Absolutely dominated this game from start to finish, and there was just no answer for him. In the second half, he slowed down a little bit, but the first half with over 200 yards, that's enough to just, you can go ahead and call it a day. Thanks, Marvin.
Yeah, we talked about it, and with Marvin Mims, he had most of his yardage in the first half. 213 yards. He only had another catch in the second half, but then we looked for someone else to step up in the second half, and it was their running back, Jake Bogdan, 21 carries, 117 yards for 1 touchdown, and so it slowed the game down for Lone Star. They got out to a pretty good lead.
Yeah, they really didn't do anything post-second half.
Didn't have to do anything.
We were talking about what are they going to do here? Are they going to let their foot off the gas a little bit, or are they going to continue to attack? And it looks like they're able to get a good game out of Bogdan, which probably helped melt the clock a little bit there and limit the Scotty's chances of coming back.
We got to talk about the Lone Star defense and give them a lot of credit in this, because literally Chandler Morris is someone that you're not going to be able to stop. Period. It's just not going to happen. You're going to have to get out there with a pro-style defense to do it. 318 yards passing for Chandler Morris, but what Lone Star was able to do is make Highland Park one-dimensional. That's really hard to do, and they put that spy, that linebacker, and they were missing their all-everything guy forward. But the way that they changed up their coverages, I don't know if it confused Chandler Morris, but I think it kept them off balance throughout the whole game. And Lone Star, guys, Lone Star is a team that can take their momentum from what they've done, even with the powder puff, I guess, from the beginning of the season. And now winning a game like this can take their momentum all the way in through a state run, because literally they're going to be hard to reckon with because of the defense that they have, and also because of the big play ability for Marvin Mims.
Well, and this was the data point that I was waiting to see for them. I don't think there was a whole lot you could take from the first 2 weeks other than they did what they're supposed to do against those two opponents. Then you go into a hostile environment like this one at Highlander tonight, and Highland Park was able to make it a little bit closer there in the second half, but watching it was Lone Star's game, and they pretty much dominated that from the first kickoff to the last whistle.
All right, and then we had Lancaster, South Grand Prairie. Lancaster with the win, 42-27.
Lancaster, man. I mean, they're a good team. South Grand Prairie, they're a good team as well. But the thing is with Lancaster is they got studs. I mean, they got real studs. 5 of their seniors are in the top 100 in the state of Texas. They're absolutely loaded. Their corner, Larondo Johnson's going to he's a long guy, big guy, going to play in the SEC at LSU. I mean, they got players all over the place. The question with Lancaster is always not the talent at every other position, the skill position. It's always there. Defensively, it's there. It's the quarterback position. And Glenn Rice Jr., the young buck, the sophomore, he's getting better and better each and every week. And today, 190 yards passing, 3 touchdowns. They're going to have to clean up the turnovers a little bit. I do think South Grand Prairie was pretty impressive tonight, though, because I didn't think they'd be able to hang as long as they did. Lancaster pulled away late in this game, but it was a tight game, and South Grand Prairie was right there the whole time. But that Lancaster defense, I mean, really shutting down the running game of South Grand Prairie. And at some point, those athletes, those top 100 guys in the states are going to end up showing out and showing up. The thing for Lancaster is the quarterback position. Like it always is. Glenn Rice Jr., the sophomore, he seems to be getting better and better each week.
Yeah, and they have juice with him out there. It's just a different energy. That's what I noticed week 1. He won 11 of 16 tonight for 190 yards and 3 touchdowns against his former school in South Grand Prairie. So, I think he's a guy that they can build off of, especially for this team and going forward the next 2 years after that. But with Lancaster, it's finally that game I've been looking for where they get consistency at the quarterback position, and then they're able to put up 42 points like that. That's kind of what I've been waiting for, and hopefully they can continue this trend into the coming weeks, because that's really going to be what separates them from being a good team and being a great team, is just consistency on the offense side of the ball.
All right, and then we only have a few more games left that are going final here. But real quick, one of our reporters was able to catch up with the head coach for Prosper and their big win tonight. Here's Josh Price after the game with head coach Brandon Schmidt.
Hello, I am Joshua Price for Friday Night Stars. I'm here with head coach Brandon Schmidt of Prosper, and your boys won 57-34. And a lot of people kind of doubted you away this game. Even the Dallas Morning News all picked against you in this road game. Was this kind of just a show up and show out kind of game?
Our goal is to go 1-0 every week, come out every Monday, Tuesday, Wednesday, get better every day. Our kids did that. They had a great week of practice. It's not about our opponent any week. It's about going 1-0. It's about getting better, and I thought our kids did a great job of that this week.
And what allowed Jackson Barrick to dominate in this game with 281 yards and 3 touchdowns?
Number one, our offensive line. It all starts up front with the big guys. They did a great job of protecting for him. And then number two, our receivers did a great job of making plays for him. Our running backs, I thought tonight, did an outstanding job of picking up blitzers.
And your defense was just immaculate this game. In the first half, you only allowed 90 yards of total offense, and then total you allowed 272. What just allowed them to be so successful here tonight?
They play so hard. They get after it. They play for each other. They run to the ball. And they tackle well, and that's what they do.
All right, and next week you have McKinney, and that's 1 week before you have district play. Is there anything you want to see cleaned up in that game before you begin district play?
I just thought the second half tonight, we just had too many personnel issues, penalties. I thought we made some bad decisions, running the ball out of bounds when we need to stay in bounds and run the clock, just some game management type stuff, but we'll get it fixed.
All right, thank you very much, Coach. Enjoy your win with your boys. Thank you. Joshua Price, Friday Night Stars.
JP!
All right. Well,
asking the tough questions, my
JP.
Again, an impressive win for Prosper. Good job out there by Josh Price. He got us a lot of highlights from that game.
Hey, man,
there were plenty of them.
That's a tough question. I mean, I don't know why coaches do that. They seem so annoyed with everything. Hey, we just take it week to week. We don't care about anybody else.
We're trying to go 1-0, 16 times.
And you know they read the clippings. They know that everyone's picking against them, and I mean they use that to their advantage. And obviously, he wouldn't come out there and say, "Yeah, we put it all over the place. We let our kids know that they were, underdogs in this game." But great win for Prosper. Nothing to take away from them, because literally, I thought that Flower Mound would come in here and run circles around them, or at least make it a game, and it wasn't.
All right, and so the last game that's gone final so far, Mansfield Timberview and Mansfield Lake Ridge. That's a 64-31 win for Timberview.
Whoa. It's impressive.
I'll
let you touch on that, and I'll piggyback on it.
You'll let me touch on it, man. I'm telling you, that's one of the games that I didn't pick, right? Also, but, those Mansfield teams, man, they do enough. And with Timberview, I think, was it Timberview that won this game, or was it Lake Ridge?
It was Timberview.
It was Timberview, man.
Yeah, Timberview established themselves early, and basically, they're rushing 286 yards rushing, 155 passing, 1 turnover, but 22 first downs was the difference. 64-31. Come on now.
Yeah, the junior running back Deuce Jones, 3 touchdowns, and that was only on 4 carries. And then Stacey Sneed.
How many schools are in Mansfield, man? I get them all confused.
Almost as many as are
Legacy,
in Frisco.
Lake Ridge, Mansfield High, and Timberview. So 5. Yep.
5.
There's 5, yeah.
Well, I mean, if you look at, they did what I would suspect them to be good at this year, and that's run the ball effectively. And I really think that's going to be an interesting opponent for Lancaster and Highland Park in district this year. That's a team that, as the season aged on last year, figured stuff out. I think they entered the playoffs as the 4th place team in the district, and then they found themselves in a regional semifinal against Highland Park, which was their ultimate demise. But they really started to catch some momentum late in the season, and you can see they're kind of continuing that trend here at the beginning of the season through the first 3 weeks.
All right, and then the last game, still in the third quarter, Rockwall and Arlington Bowie. That's 52-27 Rockwall. Any last thoughts? I know we touched on that game a little bit earlier on, but still with a little bit of time in the third quarter, Rockwall with the big lead.
Yeah, it's the Braden Locke show. Braden Locke. I mean, obviously, like you said earlier, Arlington Bowie has a bunch of dogs, and so we expected them to at least be competitive in this game. But with
Not
Jackson,
just fall over.
Oh, actually, it did go final. I beg your pardon. 58-33, the final score. Good win for Rockwall.
Yeah, like I said, man, Rockwall is a team that should be 3-0 because they played well enough in the first week to be undefeated. But obviously, 2-1, they have nothing to be ashamed of on that first loss that they suffered.
Well, and they've put up 50-plus points in three weeks now. They had 59 against Highland Park, 50 last week against Rowlett, which was supposed to be a pretty good defensive test for them. Not the case. And then this week against a Bowie team that wasn't going to just fall over, but, they put up 58. And
they're a scoring machine.
And they're a scoring machine, yeah. And that's what Rockwall is. That's what they've become known for under Rodney Webb.
All right, so that's all the scores that we have here. We're going to take a look at some of the top plays of the night, and as we're going through, just kind of final thoughts on what has been a very odd Friday night of action here in the DFW area?
Well, I tell you what, I'm gonna say that Prosper. I'm the most pleasantly surprised with them because when I went through my games that we all had, I was thinking, even doing my homework on them. Prosper really has shocked me tonight, and they look like if Allen is going to have problems at the quarterback position, Prosper has a case for that district.
No question about it. Prosper, Frisco, Lone Star getting the job done at Highlanders.
I didn't want to say that.
Oh, well, I know you were thinking it, though. I know you were thinking it.
Me.
I mean, Lone Star, and how can you not give credit to the team who just won at Highlander, which is the first Texas team to do so since 1998?
Yep.
Am I right
October
about
10th.
that, guy?
Yep.
All right, October 10th.
Against Denison.
Wow. So, yeah, I mean, those were two really big wins. And then I do want to give some credit to Coppell going into Allen, losing by a touchdown. And, they were right there the whole time. They got a defensive score. Their defense played really, really well, forcing 4 turnovers. I think that was big. And then the Colony, they had their backs up against the wall on the road against Byron Nelson. Nelson about to shock the world. And then with 40 seconds left in the game, they go down. And then ultimately with 1 second left, get the passing touchdown to win the game. Miles Price, probably my star of the night with what felt like 100 touchdowns. The Colony, man, that was a nice escape victory for them.
Well, and I'll make my comment on the Highland Park game. I think this might have been something that the Scots needed. They had ripped off 33
That's glass
straight.
half full right there.
Well, but hang on. They had ripped off 33 straight games in a row. Sometimes you need a game to – I'm not going to say to be humbled. I don't think they're walking around beating their chest or anything like that. There may have been a little bit of that, but knowing that program and Coach Allen, he doesn't really allow any of that. But sometimes you need a game to kind of put things into perspective and see what you need to work on going forward. And look, Lone Star is going to be what they are this year, but I wouldn't be surprised to see Highland Park bounce back from this. I know they will in district, but we might see this game again come regional final time.
Oh, yeah.
And it'll be a show. And they'll be loaded for bear in that game as well.
Yeah. Well, gentlemen, it's been quite a night.
You made it.
Yeah.
You made it,
Congrats,
Lapius.
fellas.
What a week for Guy and I to come on in here. A lot of upsets. Thank you so much for tuning in and choosing us to kind of guide you through what was such a chaotic Friday night of high school football here in the great state of Texas. For Eric Chiafalo, Heckma Harrison, for Guy Frazier. Heck, even Zach Wolchuk joined us here for a little bit. Nick Harris as well was here for us. Nick Lapius saying good night from the Star in Frisco, and thank you for tuning in to the Whataburger Friday Night Stars Overtime.